Desmond Lewis, also Charlie Davis. They take a little shame from out we face. But Sobers as a captain, he won plenty coaching before we cricket end up in a disgrace. Beatty here that he became a father, he catch out Holford in the cover. But when Sobers here, he too had a son. He make duck and went back in the pavilion. It was Gavaskar, the real master, just like a wall. We couldn't out Gavaskar at all, not at all. You know the West Indies couldn't out Gavaskar at all. You know the West Indies couldn't out Gavaskar at all. You know the West Indies couldn't out Gavaskar at all.
Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, listeners. We are here, the umpires are here this evening again, and today we have in the batting crease, we have the Minister of Labour. Yeah. But let me just introduce ourselves. I am Stephen Matheson, an employment law and human resource management consultant. We have also Ronaldo Rollocks, who is also a consultant in employment law, and we have a management strategist, Mr. Selvon Mitchell. We are the umpires. Today we will be looking at the issue of labor. Labor is in the wicket, and of course he will be faced with by the person who is in the minister in charge of, who is that? Industry and
Trade and Industry.
Trade and Industry. Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's open the floor. What we will do, we will start taking calls in the second hour of this program. This program is a 3-hour program, and the numbers you will get us on this program is 342-0081, 466-5391, and 771-1791. So guys, today's Labor Day. It's also Corpus Christi, but I think Labor will be celebrated tomorrow. But them guys went down Faizabad and thing today, right?
I saw them today, yes.
Right.
They went Faizabad.
So, what are your take on the batsman in the wicket? What do you feel about the batsman himself?
What I know of the batsman, I know his background from what I understand. Could be correct. He's an engineering background. I think he's an engineer by profession from Wasa.
Wasa, yeah.
And he took the helm of the PSA after Watson Duke resigned or moved on, as the case may be. It was a sort of tumultuous sort of relationship there with his membership and so forth. But in terms of efficacy and transformation, I haven't seen any sort of major transformation in the public service during his tenure there as the President General. Now, I don't know how in the sphere of being Minister now of Labour, if you would take some of the lessons learned of success or failure while he was President and being part of JTOM and these other grouping and so forth, if there will be lessons learned that he can help improve to some extent. Industrial Relation, the Industrial Relation Act, the Industrial Relation Climate in terms of relationship between union and management, as the case may be. I haven't seen him walking into the field right now. So I don't know capacity. I haven't seen him face a ball yet. He haven't said none to the commentators and so forth. I see mentioned none to the umpire if you find the bowler looking too aggressive. So we don't know, but we can have on this program here as umpires an expectation from him of what kind of delivery he will be facing, and what kind of offensive or defensive stand he's supposed to take while in the wicket. Yeah.
Okay, but this batsman is fairly new to the industrial relations climate in Trinidad and Tobago. And one has to understand, and I would like to hear what Ronaldo has to say in relation to not just the wicket, because the wicket is important, what the prevailing climate is, and also whether or not we feel that batsman has the capacity to not just understand, not just deliver, but understand the nexus between labor and productivity and driving the economy or moving the economy to the next level. Because I feel, in my view, that labor is probably one of the most important, that's one of the most important batsmen, or one of the most important element of our governance system. Because it is what drives the economy, productivity does. And for some reason, I'm not seeing any real drive, any real initiative that will take us from, although we talk a lot about labor and the need for labor and the need for more money and things, I'm a person, as I see things from both sides, or the three sides. And in my opinion, you'll always hear me talking about productivity, because without productivity, there's no labor. Without labor, there's no productivity. So, what's your take, Ronaldo?
Good afternoon to all our listeners in Trinidad and Tobago and beyond. Good afternoon to all those who are at Faizabad, who went, who on their way, who going down for the last lap, because I know it's quite a bit for festivity as well, apart from the speeches, etc., and all the different types of labor issues. But you talk about the wicket and the pitch, and we could analyze the pitch presently, and we could talk about the history of the pitch, because certain wickets have a type of history. And I think in the setting up the discussion for the labor movement, the labor history is important. Why we here and how we reach here.
Correct.
So we want to take it pre-1972, which is the Industrial Relations Act.
Industrial Stabilization.
No, the Industrial Relations Act is 72.
Right.
The Stabilization Act is 1965.
Right, yes.
Right?
Correct.
And we want to take it, I will read just a paragraph, and then we'll expand on it. Had there existed in the oil fields and elsewhere organized means of collective bargaining, through which claims and grievances of the work people could have been found ample means of expression, there can be little doubt but that the disturbances which subsequently arose might have been avoided. That is coming from the Foster Commission, the 1937 Foster Commission,
Correct.
which was commissioned to investigate the disturbances in Trinidad along the sugar belt and the oil belt.
Yes.
Okay?
Correct.
And later on we had the Daily Commission in 1954.
Yes.
Good. So we want to underline here that this whole thing began because of disputes. Disputes to productivity. Sugar and oil being our two major commodities at that time. As a matter of fact, the history will tell you, and I was reading it, that there was a state of emergency in 1965 in certain places.
So that obviously would have cascade down from the attitude of the employer at the time, pre-independence, and the Masters and Servants Ordinance, and all that kind of thing, which would have precipitated certain kind of attitude in your place.
And funny enough, Selvon and Madison, the literature tells you that when the Stabilization Act was introduced, workers were vexed. Because before that, workers would withhold their labor, and that's how they were solving disputes.
Yes.
Good. And workers saw the Industrial Stabilization Act as interference. Now put that in the context of present day, where people find the court is pro-worker. Understand that when this thing started, the workers themselves thought that the court was anti-worker.
Yes.
Because it regulated strikes and disputes, before which you had a lot of strikes in the oil belt and in the sugar belt,
Correct.
which would have had significant effect, economic effect on the country. So we want to understand that though we're going down today, they've gone down Faizabad and all these things about Butler. Good? The home of Butler. The birth of industrial relations and labor here was born out of chaos and was born out of a need to regulate productivity and things that affect all their labor. We understand it in theory. In practice, it will have devastating effect if not regulated.
Right. And it goes back to the whole philosophy of order in the society, and even from the times of, you know, Hobbes and Rousseau and that kind of thing. But the thing is, I mean, it is good to see all what you said there. And obviously you would see in that the mischief in creating
Correct.
the Industrial Relations Act of
Yes.
1972 and then the amendments in 85 and
Correct.
that kind of thing. But one of the things that the water has somewhat been murkied over the years with the passing of time
Yes.
and the new workplace. Even after COVID, the workplace has changed significantly, and even labor has kind of like outlived their usefulness. The act in itself has somewhat outlived its usefulness too. That needs serious or major overhaul, and for some reason it is creating some chaos, some major delays in the system, major challenges. It is beginning to have situations where industrial peace may be challenged or may be disrupted in some way, and this batsman that it is in the crease. In fact, the whole team has to understand the importance of labor, the importance of capital, the importance of productivity, and how we bring all parts together to, you know, to germinate the whole thing. And that's the question, you know, we will have to answer.
Umpire Rolex mentioned something there. He mentioned Butler and Faizabad. And the reason why we have this in Faizabad and we go by the Butler grave and so forth and lay a wreath, because he played a pivotal role in this. And part of the history, I know you went far in the history, but in terms of Trinidad, in terms of workers' protests in 1919, we had the dock workers' protest strike. 1919, worker protests. In 1934, we had the sugar workers' protest.
Yes.
Correct.
In 1937,
Yes.
we had that riot that led by Butler.
By Butler,
That
which is
bring this whole thing now, which is the genesis now
Commission. Correct.
of Genesis.
Yes.
But I said that to say this. We are in the chaotic position relative to labor. Murky, I like the word you use, murky, because this is not taught in school, you know.
Well,
Primary school,
yeah, well, yeah.
high school,
Yeah.
part of your comprehension, you learn
A
more
cursory
about
glance.
a cursory glance, but you learn more about Columbus in school.
But
than
not
the
just a
history.
cursory glance. You learn it without context. You just learn it as part of your history.
Yeah, Butler, this so and so.
Not with the kind of context that is needed to understand why you should have that kind of nationalistic feeling
Yes.
about development and
How I
work
reach,
and,
where I reach.
and develop your country and
How
that kind of
workers today, the average Indian and African person can work in a bank now. How
Yes.
did that come about? Labor and the struggles of the past that made those things happen by a lot of people who poise themselves and go in these institutions really don't have the history of why they're there. So you find when labor say, let us, just using a crude word, let us protest or let us strike, people don't understand why. I'm getting a good salary and so forth. But there was sacrifices made for that a lot of people really understand the sacrifice that was made to protect it. So what we have there is a lot of people in position not realizing the importance of protecting what they have because they didn't know it was born out of significant and real struggle. Yeah? So the passion isn't there. You know, people inheriting your father, your children grow up and they get a car and a thing, but they know the sacrifice you make, 1 meal a day and so forth. So they drive the car anyhow. But if they understood, and people in Trinidad understood, and Tobago understood, the struggle that was born out, people who protest under camp for days, cooking under camp for days, so that they get a good salary, the picket line, who lost their job, lost their house and so forth, for a better standard of living for everyone, then we'll have a greater appreciation for it. Now, the labor movement started to redefine themselves to some extent, to me, but not enough in keeping with the economic changes that were taking place from the productivity side in terms of companies and organization and country and so forth, and how they started to diversify. The union get left behind to some extent, or they stood behind, and they didn't redefine themselves now to keep up. And
you see, they stuck to me to a large extent in that era we're talking about. So they still feel that, I mean,
and that's why I went back to that state, because you still feel that we're fighting. You still feel that we some people planning a big strike now. Industrial action is more regulated now under the Act. But ever so often you hear them stay home tactics and all these tactics of old in 2025. And you ask yourself, how appropriate are these tactics? How applicable, and do they achieve what we really want to achieve, which is productivity? And that's why I went through this, because productivity was the goal then, and it should be the goal now.
If you want more, you have to create more.
What oil and sugar meant to the country is what your job might mean to you. Good. What oil and sugar meant to the country, your job might mean to you. You understand? So we really want to take a different view. We want to see if this pitch playing like the history says it will play.
So what you think? I mean, we first hour, and we have a lot to discuss on this topic, because this topic is a broad topic. We can spend a whole year talking about this. What do you think this batsman in particular, what kind of competencies, what kind of capacities? And we know these batsmen, and really these batsmen have great support. So they have the advisors, they have the technocrats behind, they should have people like ourselves talking to them and that kind of thing. But what do you think this batsman have or should have to move us to the next level? Because there's a lot to be done in this particular, on the field here. He have to bat. So what do you think?
I want to answer that question this way. I remember while I was branch president of in a union, in a certain organization, and this goes into the mindset of the batsman now. That company made juice and milk, and they sell that and produce that and so forth. And I remember one negotiation coming up, we started having discussion and so forth. And I, as branch president, without a union and probably in naivety, I suppose, I look at the economic position the company is in. So I went in a negotiation as a businessman. All I was a worker, right? I went in as a businessman and I asked the question. I said, okay, we are getting a salary based on X right now. This is our salary. I said, what is the implication of we increasing salary, increasing these expenditure of the company? How does the company competitive edge? Because we are not essential services, juice and milk. You have everybody making juice, milk, sweet drink, and so forth. You're not an essential service, as the case may be. You're in a competitive environment. And you have to be responsible now, in terms of asking to make sure you don't position yourself or the company out of existence. And that is the balancing act we had to look at. And the batsman had to look at.
But what were you told what answer was the answer you were given in a situation like that?
Well, interestingly enough, you'll laugh at this. I went ahead in a naive way. and tell the company, hey, you see me, based on the economics, based on the market, based on the competitive, because I could understand that. I understood those things. And you know, interestingly enough, I learned economics because of the union. They had a school, as part of OWTU, as a matter of fact. So they had the CLR James Learning Center.
That was
in South.
Yeah,
and I started economics in there, and I get a liking for it. So I could have understand the conversation of the company. Yes? So I wasn't just saying I want 10, I want 5, I want 3. I could have understand economics. I could have do market survey. I could understand comparative analysis in terms of competitive edge and so forth. And what that will put us. What it costs the company to make a product. Yes? So the batsman who is in the wicket now had to understand that you have to retrain and retool the whole industry of how we could work together, because if one is off, it's a synchronization now, all have to be mentioned, because we're talking productivity is the common denominator that the batsman, the wicket had to be balancing between labor and commerce. He had to be balancing that to make sure everybody is on the same keel. And you're asking for what? This suffers and the whole thing break down. So he's in a critical role.
I remember when I was going to Supriani, when I was attending Supriani, I remember a lecturer, Dr. Roy Thomas, was my lecturer, and he was teaching one of the industrial relations module. And, you know, me being me, you know, I asked a question, so why does the union, you always hear the union protesting for more money, but you never hear them protesting for more work? And he said, Matterson, let me tell you something. He said the union have to do what the union have to do. But I couldn't understand it. But the unions will still tell you that. I still feel that that is, while that is good, the union have to do, because the union really is to represent the rights and the plight and the you know, the worker. But also the union must have a deep understanding of the needs of the workplace and the needs of productivity.
Of course.
Because if you have an unproductive workforce, you wouldn't be making the kind of generating the kind of revenues you need to generate.
Everybody go home.
And then therefore, not only you will be generating the revenue, but you will be operating at a loss.
Well, what you're hinting there is to responsible trade unionism. And we know for a large extent, some of that just does not exist. You hear one side of the equation, which is normally the worker side, and they will say in their defense, they are there to seek the interests of their workers. But if you define interests in the narrow sense, then you will do what you're doing until eternity. But if you see interest as a community of interest in terms of productivity of the job, when the employer win, and you must understand, I mean, here, somewhere here, there's some mistrust. Because if when the employer win, I win, says something about our relationship. But there is such an atmosphere of mistrust in the workplace these days.
Because at the same time, while productivity is important, there must be some kind of equity in the whole thing. And you must be able to, I must be able to benefit from the fruits of my labor too.
No, agree.
In some way.
But it mustn't come from guessing.
Yes.
Well, that
the problem is coming from
it can be
a feeling making plenty more. I want more.
Yes.
Correct.
Predicated against what?
Correct.
So it must be data.
And given our history, given our history, when we see Massa, for want of a better word, buy a Benz, for want of a better car,
I don't think I know Massa.
we feel things.
But we don't know what else he doing.
Exactly.
We feel this all he doing.
You know, we feel that is all we're doing, and then we start to question why he doing that and I traveling. You know, so sometimes we could get beside ourselves if we don't have the correct information or we don't seek the correct information.
And to a large extent, that's how. I mean, you hear that coming from some union people sometimes.
Correct.
That's unfortunate.
Right?
Because by virtue of you being a CEO, you mightn't pay a cent for that Benz.
And the hypocrisy is
might be to break tax a company to get it from taxes.
And the hypocrisy is even some of our union leaders live far above the workers they represent.
But I don't want to talk about them in that kind of way because I have my own view on some of them old union leaders and women and money
You
and all that
understand?
kind of thing, you know.
They live far above the workers you represent.
Yes, if you check how much collect, why do we you know, we were talking about this yesterday. Why do we have so much back pay owing and that kind of thing? It's because you had to blame unions for that too, you know.
Yeah.
If you are settling collective
Yeah, that's your why you exist.
Yeah, that's why it exists.
Yeah.
So if you just taking people union dues and you ain't doing what you're supposed to be doing,
And you're criticizing the government.
and you're criticizing the government, and you're making no sense.
Let me ask a question. Let me deal with one that is in front of all of us and so forth. We have public servants, or the public service. And the public service is really the state that manages the economy.
Right.
So you have the executive and they have their role to play. But the public service, that group of persons know exactly if it have money, if we're making money, how much money it have, where the money is, you know. They know that. So in terms of coming and negotiating, they're in such a unique position, yes, to say I want 5 or 10 based on, and I could give you a story as a union.
I beg to disagree.
Just now, I could give you a story as a union why we could and why we can't, because the monies of the state really is to a large extent in front of the face, you know. So when the government say we have no money, I don't know, but the state, which is the workers, can say no, we have money aligned. Are you talking the truth? As the case may be, it is in front of all of us.
Which arm of the state? I mean, you know.
No, just talking about the public service association.
Okay, so
public servant association.
The industrial relations system is a kind of tripartite kind of is state, union, and the workers, or workers and the representative, and capital, right? The owners of capital business.
Right.
So, but there are also government workers who falls under trade unionism or who fall under trade union representatives. So that, I guess that's what you're talking about there.
Yeah.
But I think saying what you say kind of oversimplifies it, because they don't really have the control, or
we are saying that they control the information to put forward an argument based on facts. That is all I'm saying. Because too many times we argue in grey areas. You want to say the government has no money. You can say, well, it's how you apportion the money, but don't tell me you don't have. And I could counter and say, well, I know you have $20, you have $40, you have $50 as the case may be, so don't tell me you have. The question is, how are you going to apportion that? It's just that you're not going to apportion 10% for me. But don't come with the argument you don't have because I know you have, as the case may be. You understand what I'm saying? Right? So, what the batsman had to look at is how we balance, as we say, commerce and labor from a factual standpoint and not an emotional standpoint. As you were saying just now, the businessman buy a Benz, so I feel I should get more money because he has money to buy a Benz. But that time he had 20 other business going on down the road.
Or that time he might be breaking that, or he might be buying that off the business.
Of the business,
and writing
it off as expense and so forth.
As expense.
So we had to start negotiating. A lot of times we predicate and say, well, the CEO getting 100,000, so we should get more. I've heard the arguments by union along those lines, but not predicating on any real data as the case may be.
But
so union come now and that's why people look at them as they just ranting.
Well,
nobody come with true data.
To balance the discussion, I make the same accusation sometimes, because what you may ask for, and we're looking at it from the worker point of view, is a certain degree of parity. If you tell me the business made no money, that's what you're saying, you know, the business made no money, then it's a natural reaction for that to be evidenced. If I am saying contrary,
exactly.
If you're telling me to tighten my belt and you getting fat.
Well, what you have to understand, any business could say they make no money, you know.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. Because what you could do with
the
exactly.
You reinvest your money, and that goes as an investment.
Yes.
And it other words write off as an expense, and then of course it reduces your profit.
Yes.
You know, that kind of thing.
Yes.
So, but that's besides the point. I think what we should be looking at here, in terms of understanding what the batsman need to have and his particular capacities. We have to understand something we were talking about yesterday. When you come in the bat, before you come into bat, you should have had a cursory, not just a cursory, you should have a general understanding of the wicket and what is required. What are the challenges out there?
Yes.
And I want to talk about some of the challenges.
But here, his particular blind spot as you're going into challenges, right? You have to remember, he has come out of a union background.
His blind spot or bias now.
Right? However, the union density in Trinidad
Well, then you're saying that
is still
you're saying that the capacity is not what it should be for the batsman. He shouldn't be batting so high up.
At that strategic level.
Yeah,
no,
that should take
no. I'm saying some of these things.
Because if you're saying he just understand labor and he didn't understand economics and the way he should understand it.
But his background. Listen. His background is that of a union, right? And he has risen to this status.
No, we talking this. We really don't know what the man resume look like, eh?
Yeah.
No. I'm not saying his only and his single most, but he's a union leader at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And part of
about 2 or 3 years.
Good. An amalgamation of a union, a joint trade union movement, correct? Our union density in Trinidad and Tobago is maybe only 10-15%, which means 85% of workers are ununionized. You are the Minister of Labor, you're not the Minister of Union. So then your agenda has to be the agenda of the 85.
Right, but that is no way, that is not even where I was going.
Plus you.
What I'm saying is that as a practitioner,
Yes.
Yeah.
I understand some of the vagaries, some of the challenges of the industrial relations system.
Yes.
Right?
Let me hear
and
some of them.
clearly, we have a problem in Trinidad and Tobago, which is why we have a problem in productivity and everything else. Right? And everything feeds into everything. So let's start with the Industrial Relations Act, which is woefully not suited for the particular climate we are in. Almost, it doesn't work good for workers, nor does it good work for employers in a lot of ways. And we could talk about, some of them. We could talk about some of them, right? So one of the things I would hope that a batsman of that level, because one thing I say all the time, for the last 25 years, I've only seen people who came out of the belly of trade unionism.
McLeod,
as Minister of Labour.
Yeah.
And every year, I remember since in Jennifer time, they're talking about revising the Industrial Relations Act. Zero.
McLeod.
Nothing.
Yeah.
No revision. But you have so many areas. Listen, why a person takes, and what are some of the things that causes it? Why a worker will take 5 years on a matter in industrial court? Why? You are a practitioner, tell us.
No, but Matty, I'm glad you say that. Before you answer as a practitioner at the court, it is strange and an interesting point you make, because I'm sure Earl McLeod was Minister of Labour. He would understand the question you asked because he would have experienced that.
To some extent.
Yes, now. Jennifer Baptiste Primus was a Minister of Labour.
To some extent. They understand everything. The fully 100% trade union, you see. They didn't understand the other side.
They must
the way they should be understanding it.
They would have understand some of the things in the court that impacted negatively on the industrial relation environment in Trinidad. They've been in the court for years.
And one of the
But what I'm saying is that during their time, I haven't seen no significant change to improve any of it. It is strange.
And that is because...
It's strange. Because now they were in the position to fix it, or improve on it, But there was never no tinkering or no tweaking of itself.
You see, and it is because, as I was saying, philosophically, they see themselves as having a mandate that is only just limited to the 10% of trade union members. Remember, we have workers, and 85% of the workers are not unionized. As much as people we see on the street and in blue and in magenta and all kind of colors. Remember, the act is supposed to be for workers. And if you don't understand who you're representing there, if you feel you're just representing union members, Good.
Yeah.
When true and in fact,
Good point.
it's only 10%.
Yes, and as I say, I'm glad you say that because I was talking to that big trade union leader some days ago, and I was explaining to him how dangerous a certain element of the recognition and certification board decisions are to that 70% that Ronaldo is talking about.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So who could take a matter to the Minister of Labour is an employer, Section 51(1)(1)(a), a recognized majority union, a worker is a member who is falls in a recognized, and C, any trade union of which the worker is a member in good standing. But you know something? Yeah, I call them crooked. Because I don't want to say crooked attorneys because they use the law to a large extent to stymie the workers' interests in bringing a matter to the court. What does member in good standing have to do with, or a bank account have to do, a union bank account have to do with a worker getting representation in the court?
I don't understand. What the bank account have to do with it?
Explain.
So to deny a worker the right to bring a matter to the court because you have ruled that the worker is not a member in good standing, and you have ruled that they are not a member in good standing because of some type of internal accounting system of the said union, according to what Stephen is saying, is totally unfair to the worker.
Exactly.
It really has nothing to do with the matter, the mischief for which the matter you brought to court.
Correct.
You know?
So what I'm saying is, a member in good standing should be a person who paid the union dues.
Correct.
And have an application form to say that they pay the union dues. Yes. Nothing else. Yes. It has nothing to do with how the union spend the money or if they put it in a bank account or anything like that.
Yeah.
And that is one of the challenges. But the 10% that the unions you talk about represent, they wouldn't see that as a problem.
No, and that's the problem.
They wouldn't see that as a problem because they're representing workers who fall under a recognized majority. So they wouldn't see that as a problem.
So which brings me back to my issue. If the batsman don't understand that is not 10% of people he representing. He representing the 90 as well.
And that's just one area of the act that needs addressing. And you know, funny.
Yes.
There are persons who understand union, who promote. I call them imposters. There's some of them in Supriani College Labour teaching and thing, and sitting on boards like the recognition and recognition and certification board, and saying to workers that you're not getting representation because your union, for whatever reason, didn't put your money in a bank account when they should have put it in a bank account.
Wow.
That, to me,
is unjust.
It's unjust.
It's highly unjust.
Right?
It's highly unjust. And that is so because of the obfuscation of the law and the bureaucracy in the law in getting RMUs, in getting recognized majority status. That is something that affects the 90. The 10 would have hurdled it because you're a union member. But the reason why the 90 exists is because of the issues involved, the difficulties involved in getting RMUs. We still have 90% of people out there ununionized. So organizing workers and why all these things are important is because unless the batsman understands the agenda, if he feels the agenda, and we're going to bowl a ball here, is the reopening of Petrochin, then that is what we're going to fight for the next 5 years.
Yes. Yeah.
But that does not affect the 90.
Exactly.
That affects 2 from the 10.
Exactly.
So there is a skewed vision the batsman have then.
So the batsman has to understand the industrial relations climate and what affects workers, which might be totally different from what affects union members. Good? Because what affects union members is you only have 10% density.
And then the other thing is, why do employers somehow feel that the court, most of the rulings in the court are against them? Why do they feel so?
I don't know. Well, I can't answer for that, really and truly, to a large extent. I've won some,
I've
won some, I've lost some. But I think what employers have annoyance with the court is that any worker can take any employer to court, yeah, for anything. And most of the time, the employer may have to hire someone to represent the company at a cost, as the case may be. And that worker would lose the case. And there's no cost applied to nuisance. To the employer, he doesn't get no redress. It might cost him $15,000 to hire somebody to go and represent him. And the court as a company is a frivolous case, but it reached the court and so forth, because the Ministry of Labour can't stop someone from going to the court. Yes? You could always try and pacify to a large extent. So it reached to the court and so forth is a frivolous thing, and you have won a number of matters that was frivolous and trying to figure out why the union bring it to court. But then there's no redress now in terms of, but if workers know, if the matter is frivolous, and this will bring balance, this is all about balance, If the matter is frivolous, and if I laws there's a percentage of costs that you have to pay, will be more responsible now. In some of the matters we take to court. So the worker and the employer now will see, okay, there's some parity. They waste my time in the court for 3 months and so forth. Yeah, I could claim some damages as the case will be.
Well, sometimes, let me just say this, right?
You ask that question about the employer,
Yeah,
I'm answering from the employer standpoint.
I talk for the employer too sometimes, right? And sometimes I have to explain that to them, right? The thing is, remember, anybody in the workplace, feeling, any worker in the workplace feeling that someone just have been done, or any kind of dispute, any dispute in the workplace could go to court. And it could go to court by first the matter being reported to the minister, of which the minister has 14 days to either respond or try to solve the matter. And if an extension is not given, then what is called an unresolved trade dispute certificate has to be issued in a matter like that, right?
Right, Section 51.
Right, and Section 59.
Yeah, 59.
Right? And in which case, you go to court. Now, I understand that the employer could feel, well, this man, we didn't pay him the full salary, and he feels that he has a dispute as a result of that, and he take it to the minister, and then they get solved there, and it go into court, and now I had to pay Steve Matheson $5,000 for every hour to represent me, and then we had to write evidence and argument, and that might cost me a certain money, and then we had to write witness statement, and that might cost me money, and then it goes on and goes on and goes on and goes on. But the employer it doesn't have to go to court. The employer could make a decision and negotiate his way out of that, because I mean it might be easier after he pay Steve Matheson all that money to go to court, $50,000, and he only had to pay. He was only supposed to pay the worker $500.
Sometimes the employer look at that as a little lacuna, because here what they're saying, here what? Let me tell him we will take him to court, and he will, when he watch, we will say we got 10,000. We know the man wrong, let's see if we got 10,000 from the man, because if you go to court, he got to spend about 25,000. Although we know we have a stupid case, we lost the case, but he want to lose 25,000 just to win. He rather pay 10,000 and save $15,000, and they play that. So in that regard, the employer feel I'm being taken advantage of. The question we had to ask ourselves in structuring it, shouldn't the Ministry of Labour be given more authority or more power in adjudicating? Yes, instead of wasting the court's time. I don't know. I'm just saying.
To be fair, Mr. Selvon, remember there are some hurdles you have to jump through before you reach the court.
Exactly.
You have conciliation at the Ministry of Labour.
Yes.
And they sometimes tell you, listen to me, you're not making any sense.
They do. But
and then if you skip that, no, you don't end up in court there. You go on to CMCs at the court.
Right,
before the judge.
And they may recommend conciliation.
And they may recommend further conciliation. So, and I think there you have further authority that will sift some of the nonsense.
Yeah,
because
but the challenge is that does hardly ever happen. Sometimes the employer come with a stance and they say, listen, we're going to court on this.
And that is what causes this dispute.
You know, Selvon, and sometimes the union stand up, the same thing, they want to extort and and they stand up on something small and
Yes.
they want something.
Yeah, there was something basic, and listen, being on that side, being an employer for a number of years, I understand it, and Madison understand it too.
Yeah.
And fellas know full well now, hear it.
No, but
We
no, but
lost the case, you know.
No, but
I've been there, and I'm
no,
telling
but
you facts.
no, but
It's
listen,
here.
listen. We talking about the batsman in the wicket,
So the
and he had to
batsman, we
understand
had to
this.
understand these nuances, you know.
But listen.
So he had to meet with labor. He have to
One
meet
of the
with
challenge,
chamber,
one of the challenge,
and he had to bring balance.
One of the challenge in the workplace is managing contract administration, managing that contract you have between you and the worker. That's one of the challenges, and sometimes, without the employer even knowing it, without the employer getting good advice, without the employer hiring a Matheson or Ronaldo to sit with them before they make certain decisions, they put things in that contract that might be voidable. Because, or they went and get another kind of lawyer who is not a practitioner in employment law, and looking at common law in contracts and that kind of thing, and thinking they could do certain things which they really can't, and then they find out the hard way, they go to court, they fight it, and then they find out the hard way that they can't do that. Or they do observe certain rules, certain natural justice procedures and natural justice and whatever, and they end up in court. Because by and large, that court we're talking about, that court deals specifically with equity.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it deals with process.
And
so you fire a man, you catch a man thieving. You know, a union man told me once that a worker could be wrong like a O. If you follow the wrong process
That's every court,
in dealing that work with their worker,
That's a civil
you
law.
will get it again.
Again.
Right?
And Stephen, you said something there, and this is really, well, we know that. We know at the heart of all of this, the problem is ego.
Yeah.
Because an employer, an owner of capital, doesn't look at equity.
Yeah, he look at prerogative, management prerogative.
Good.
Right,
He looks at
right.
and we have had that historically, and that's why the Civilization Act and the Industrial Relations Act came. We look at power relationships. Remember Barbados, for instance, they have a tripartite system where they don't have these power phenomenons. They resolve the issues. But where you have big capital and big business, I'm not going to talk to you. I'm not going to concede, and no, we're going down the road.
Correct.
And it's that decision to go down and die on that hill that causes
So
the
you might be
problem.
thinking, listen, I remember I really thought at one time, folks, we coming up to the hour, and we have to pay some bills, so we will be stopping for a few minutes and come back, at which time we will take your calls. But the thing is, sometimes employers, because there's really no book to tell you what is good industrial relations practice or bad industrial relations practice. You just have to know that. And if you don't know, maybe you should hire a professional to tell you.
This is why the word harsh and oppressive treatment.
Yes, harsh and contrary to good industrial relations practices.
If you don't understand what that means, then you should hire a professional to write your contracts. You should hire a professional to, when you have a dispute in your workplace, you should hire an employer, a consultant, or some kind of employment law lawyer to do to advise you, and that you will make those kind of mistakes and end up paying down the road.
Yeah. So we go back, so we go back into the Ministry of Labor. Basically saying, when you come to the Ministry of Labor, just use the Ministry of Labor for instance, and the review, they can tell the company, well, your documents are really making sense,
Well, the Minister of Labor, the Ministry, the conciliation, that is not the responsibility of conciliation. No. At this point in time.
At present, what I'm saying, we're trying to fix things, we want to win this match.
It should be, yeah.
It should be to say, look, your documents based on practice, norms and practice and so forth, this don't make sense. Whoever did up this for you, you can't win this, that makes sense going forward and so forth. Revise your thing and so forth, and probably a next worker, you might have a better position of dealing with him in the court. But presently, the way your documents are structured, you have too much room for licks and so forth.
Well, from our observation, that has been the cry even during some conciliations.
Excellent.
But a man in jacket and tie, not listening to the conciliator. You don't know how bad I want to get rid of this worker. So egos at play. Power relationships.
You know what? Some companies really and truly, just, I don't mind paying $100,000 to get rid of the man, you know.
Well, yeah, I mean, some people have effort money. We just have effort money.
Well, then don't cry. Don't cry, Dominic in Business Street. Don't cry.
Yeah, go through the process.
Don't cry.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, we take a short break to pay some bills.
You've got bills to pay, and so do we. Let's go pay some bills on the street 919 FM.
This summer, give your child the hour, first aid and conflict management. With Field Trip, your child will be given free apron and certification upon completion. Call 492-7397 or 336-4935. Institute of Health and Fitness Company Limited, located at number 79 St. Vincent Street, Tunapuna.
For the month of June, registration will only be $50 to book your space, and you can pay the tuition fee before the start of camp.
Campari, Red Passion, embrace the mix. Campari Red Passion, embrace the mix. Must be 18 years or older to drink responsibly.
This is Roger Boynes. I am contesting for the position of General Secretary for the People's National Movement in the upcoming internal elections scheduled for June 22nd, 2025. I am a former Member of Parliament and Minister of Sport and Youth Affairs. I bring to the office of General Secretary experience, dedication to hard work, a commitment and respect for the membership who are the very backbone and foundation of this party. I'm prepared to focus on rebuilding this party with the help of all. Vote for Roger Boynes as General Secretary. Vote for a stronger PNM. Vote for a stronger nation.
Ikaro, I am Alatumishe Ifabamishe Aganki, better known as MCDU. And
every Monday between the hours of 9 p.m. to midnight,
I host a show called Orisha, The Way of Life, right here on the Sheet 919 FM, where I have guests passing through from the Orisha Ifa Baptist Diaspora to educate, edify, and inform you, the listening public, about Orisha Ifa practices. So remember to tune in
every Monday between the hours of 9 p.m. to midnight
for Orisha, The Way of Life.
TNT, get ready, get hungry, and get to the hut because it's lunchtime! From pizzas to pastas, breadsticks to cinnamon rolls, Pizza Hut's all-you-can-eat lunch buffet is all yours for only $55. Sundays to Thursdays, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. and extended to 4 p.m. on Sundays. Check socials for info on selected locations nationwide and take your hunger to the hut. Pizza Hut, now that's delivering.
Blessings in the wonderful name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. You are invited to listen to the Final Hour broadcast heard every Monday from 12 midnight to 5 a.m. in the morning on the Street 919 FM radio. Hear my mom, Pastor Helen Garcia, and myself, Pastor Valentine Garcia Jr., preach the Word of God to the elderly, youth, and children. We can be contacted at 629-0113 or 623-8444. The church is located at 26 Prince Street in Port of Spain. We look forward to you joining us. God bless you.
As my life, I lay it on the altar. As my life.
Don't miss June savings at Furniture Plus. Get up to 50% off shop appliances, furniture, electronics, mattresses, and more. Buy now, pay later with affordable higher purchase plans. Plus, earn Caribbean Airlines. Travel miles with your purchase. Visit any Furniture Plus stores or shop online.
It's election June 22nd, PNM internal elections. Vote for the people's champions. The only real change.
Vote for them. Vote for the people's champion. Vote for them. For the only real change. Vote for them. Vote for the people's champion. Vote for them. For the only real change.
June 22nd, PNM internal elections. Vote for the people's champions. The only real change.
Vote for them. Vote for the people.
22nd of June, PNM internal elections. Vote for the people's champions. The only real change.
Tune in to The Street 919 FM every Friday from 9:15 a.m. to 9:45 a.m. with Kingdom Health Services, situated at number 125 to 186 Eastern Main Road in Tunapuna. For the program, Health and Healing, merging the old with the new, with Mr. Brent Diet. For more information, call 318-7471 or 484-0141 or 360-4100. It's all about Kingdom Health Services on The Street 919 FM.
Whoever said messy was a bad thing totally missed the point. Take that hit song everyone loves now. It probably started like this. Baby, calm down. That's why KFC is celebrating the messy moments with our Messy Cruncher and Messy Zinger sandwiches for only $34.95. Imagine a crunchy, golden brown, flavorful chicken sandwich sauced to perfection with our signature sweet, spicy, tangy sauces. Oh boy. So crunch into the deliciously messy moments today. Check socials for details. KFC, it's finger-licking good.
Join the winning team with Pasta Alkaline John
every Tuesday from 11:05 a.m. to 12 noon and every Thursday night from 8 to 9 p.m.
live on The Street 919 FM as he talks about Lviv, the power of 5 fruits, one of the most powerful antioxidant supplements on the market today. The 5 superfruits in Lviv are mangosteen, acai, pomegranate, goji, and nuni. These fruits have a positive and profound impact on human health performance and disease. Join him as he gives live testimonials of the Lviv healing powers. To get more information, you can contact Pastor Alkaline John at 516-286-7079 or you can visit his webpage at www.alkalinejohn.com. Remember,
every Tuesday from 11:05 a.m. to 12 noon and every Thursday night from 8 to 9 p.m.
live on The Street 919 FM.
Share the live. Share the live. The Street 919 FM on Facebook and Instagram. Share the live. Iowa George on Instagram. Share the live. Iowa TV and Street TV on YouTube. Share the live. The Street 919 FM.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, we are back on. And we will take your calls now. That is 342-0081, 466-5391 and 771-1791. We are here, the umpires, and we are looking today at the batsman in the wicket, who is the Minister of Labour. So, Ronaldo, tell me.
I think it will be interesting to find out from our listeners what do they want from Labour, and please don't all say in chorus 10%, because we don't give that here. So apart from the 10%, what do you want from Labour? What do you see as the burning issues for Labour? And by that we mean workers in Trinidad and Tobago. You tell us. You are there. You on the street. This is Street 91.9. Tell us, what do you see as the urgent issues for Labour, so we could inform the batsman in this wicket how to bat and what balls to expect, you know, and how it might turn or not. What you have been working for all these years, you might be working now, you may be a retiree, good, and for all your tenure, certain things still were not organized. Labour is supposed to organize the disorganized, but that is not happening in a real sense. That is not happening.
But just coming back to the question, the salient question, the seminal question, does this batsman have the capacity to make runs? And what are the prevailing condition? How the wicket is, the outfield, you know, that kind of thing. We examined some of those things on Tuesday, but given the moisture on the outfield and that kind of thing, could this batsman make runs without doing other things, certain other things?
We had a couch it different, Matty. I look at it from this side. How does the batsman create an enabling environment, yeah, for labor and capital to coexist and bring about that center position we need called productivity?
Correct.
Yeah? And how do we, in this climate that Trinidad is in, precarious as it is, I listened to the debate one night, it was precarious, with size budgets over $60 billion and so forth. It says something. And he have to play that balancing act in making sure there's a smooth relationship, yeah, with labor and capital to bring about what? Productivity to get us out of this morass that we're in, really and truly.
Correct.
He always had to be balancing that all the time to a large extent. The question is, he have to get feedback from capital, he had to get feedback from labor, he had to marry the two now and come up with some balancing solutions for all to coexist in harmony. Now, I haven't heard the demands, and we may hear it today from labor. We may hear some demands from capital today.
No,
and that should inform him.
From labor, because
but
capital
need labor, you know.
You might tell you what Dr. Roy Thomas said. He said, labor will do what labor have to do. So you can only expect one thing down there.
Yeah, but I hear what Roy Thomas said, and I don't agree with him.
No. You can only hear one thing down there today. But if we continue on the same kind of agenda and the same kind of short-sighted approach to labor in this country, that is all you will hear down there today.
If that is the case. I
But,
haven't heard any
but you
speeches,
see, today offers a different dynamic.
Yeah.
Because all the other labor days before, in the last 10 years, labor was bowling. Today, labor batting. Who are you asking? Who are you going to question? You can't question. You're not the opposition.
Well, let's take a call. Let's take a call.
Let's take a call.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon, gentlemen. I'm calling Mr. Lahokita. I must say thanks to the management of the station for having such a program. First summer, I'm hearing it. All right, some of the issues. What I would like to hear. One, people on retirement, public servants, and other public officers must be paid their terminal benefits on time.
Okay.
Yeah.
For example, me, I retired in 2017 on 2013 collective agreement, and you know, and apparently we people like me from 14 come right back to now, who are retired, we just in abeyance, right? And that something should be done about trying to complete those negotiations so that we, in our latter days, should enjoy the fruits of our labor. Right? Another thing is under the IRA Act 23 of 72. You know, we have a 3-year collective agreement and not more than 5 years.
Yeah.
So I do not know why people like me, again, we end up in this situation.
We were just talking about that here.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
The issue of back pay shouldn't even exist.
At all.
Yes.
At all. And I don't know about it, how the treasury and the money. The treasury is not a biscuit tin. A biscuit tin, a Bermuda's biscuit tin is when you eat out all the biscuit or you consume all the biscuit and then the tin empty and you take the biscuit tin to play music for jab or tote water or something, carry or store water.
No, but don't you think that issue in particular falls on his feet of labor itself, because labor either not aware of their role and their responsibilities to workers, or labor is too much involved in the politics, which is kind of murky in the water with the other significant player in the tripartite arrangement.
Yeah, well, we as workers should not be sacrificial lambs, right? And because people vested, because you pay your union dues from the 10 years. Well, once you join up the union, you pay your union dues, and you expect that you enjoy whatever benefit in the collective agreement for you. So if the labor unions are laissez-faire, I mean, well, why do you sense people joining trade unions?
And that's the question, one would have to ask, or one want to ask all the time, would want to ask all the time. But let me take another caller.
Yeah, but before I go, I also want the issue of for public servants, retired public servants, in terms of a pension plan, that must be done. Because it's hard on former workers who, as they reach 60, their health started deteriorate and all kind of thing. And people will need financial assistance to prolong their lives. Anyhow, a very interesting program here, but thanks much.
Yeah, thanks. Let me take another call. Yeah. Good afternoon, caller.
Hello, pleasant good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Very nice, sister. Very nice, sister. I want to prefer that the political directorate of the country over the years, specifically one specific directorate, have propagated individual contracts than to propagate for collective bargaining. They're trying to dismantle collective bargaining by dismantling union, by mashing up union. What's how you all think about that? And have a prevalence now of individual contracts. It's the same problem. We all same problems with the same is 90% of the union representing this amount, this percentage, but the majority is individual contracts. Since human resource management came into here, human resource management has done that, and certain government has to, use that to look up trade union.
Well, I mean,
human resource management and trade union is the same thing. It's just that the management and the administration performing the functions of the union. What do you think about it?
So that's a good question, and it is a dilemma sometimes, not just government, but employers are faced with, and that is sometimes because of the feelings of the system itself and the need for some kind of changes to be made. And I'll tell you, I'll kind of like explain it to you. What happens is that sometimes, why would an employer issue to a worker a fixed term contract for 1 year or 2 years when that particular job will continue to exist for a long period? Is a stable job on the establishment, but you give that worker a 1 year or a 2 year contract.
Simple.
Right?
The employer believes in the false premise that if I do like him after a year, I could get rid of him.
Right.
False premise.
Right, but that's a false premise.
Yeah. Bad advice.
And also, it happens because sometimes governments or employers are ill-advised, and Ronaldo, you could speak to this, and they are of the opinion that you could control a worker in a certain kind of way if you put him on a short leash.
Correct.
But then you find that worker is working a little good, and you extend the contract again. Now the job continues to exist.
Yes.
So now you create what is called reasonable expectation.
Yes.
And then one day you have a fallout with the worker and you decide to fire him. You say your contract up and we send you home. So it happens in government when government change also. And that is a challenge, because while we know you're trying to correct a particular mischief, but at the same time, you have to take into consideration the rights of a worker.
And well, systematically too, we have always invented these shortcuts that tend to bite us. We have today what I would call, and I mean the literature affirms it, a parallel public service. So we have public servants through the public service system, and we have contract workers,
special purpose company,
working alongside the public servants,
doing
the same thing. You're not promoting the public servants through the public service because you fear that you don't have as much control
over them.
Good. And we create these monsters. I've always said, for instance, the RHAs. If you look at that structure,
typical example.
But that would usually happen, and I'm glad you mentioned caller HR. That will usually happen because of either the misunderstanding of the power of HR, or the misunderstanding of how to use HR. Because in HR, one of the significant elements of HR is managing performance management.
Correct.
And if you manage people's performance in the way you should be managing, you wouldn't have no need for short-term contracts.
Exactly.
Correct.
Because managing the performance will take care of that if you do all the things you're supposed to do when you manage performance.
Yeah. And the ILO convention.
Then you're using human resource management as a tool of oppression, a tool of
No.
We mean that's what they're doing now.
Yes, he says that's what they're doing.
Well, that's what they're doing now, but
yes.
because they don't understand how to use it.
Yes.
Right? If you utilize all the elements of human resource management in the workplace, you will have no need for those kind of short-term contracts.
Yes.
Because you could terminate an employee. You could terminate an employee for lack of performance once you do what you're supposed to do.
Well, I was now going to add the ILO Convention 58 supports that you can terminate a worker for lack of performance.
Exactly.
Only his performance, and if you manage him properly and you're doing what you say.
We have a system in Trinidad and Tobago that creates a whole set of bottleneck because we have sometimes I would say square pegs and round hole, wrong people doing the right thing, and you know that kind of thing. You know, in most of the states in the US, they operate under a system called employment at will.
Yes.
Yeah.
Meaning, but they have a lot of other safety safeguards for workers. You can't discriminate against a worker. They even have affirmative action, right? They have all kind of different things to protect a worker. But management have prerogative.
Yes.
If I don't like your performance, I don't like how you're working, I could send you home.
Yes.
It does not exist. It does not operate the same way in our system.
Yes.
Right? You have to send home a person to force.
Thanks again.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
I raised the question just to get this discussion going because I know a lot of us, our society who is at home doesn't understand there are two parallel things taking place and politics.
Correct.
It's very key. It's a key ingredient in have it going one way or the other.
Correct. Yes, correct.
You understand? Like, for example, the new dispensation is hooking on their bandwagon to the working class, what we call unionized labor. That's all?
Yes.
So that is what. So we see that politics playing out itself now to counteract the old politics of contract labor.
Correct. But the thing
Thanks very much, gentlemen. I appreciate the discussion. I open it so that people could get to understand what we experience in Trinidad and Tobago.
Thank you, sir.
As industrial relations. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And on that point, we always advocate for workers to play their part as well. Workers need to, I mean, plain talk, workers need to mind the business. Not just dress up, go to work, come home and study all the other fringe benefits of labor.
Well, workers have to be managed, you know. Workers, they have to be managed.
So that situation I raised about Mount Hope a couple of days ago, where a woman was brought in to the emergency section. She suffered a stroke, and her pressure was kept high for a particular reason. Unless they do a CT scan, you wouldn't know what kind of stroke, what caused the stroke, if it's a blood clot or if it's a bleeding or whatever. But they took 4 days before they actually did that CT scan and damaged that lady. Because if they had, the lady was taken in for a CT scan, but the escorts who were supposed to move her from the bed to the CT scan machine refused to move her. They say she heavy or they didn't have the time to do it and that kind of thing. And as a result, the lady was sent on a ward without the CT scan, and subsequent requests for the CT scan wasn't forthcoming. So the lady suffered further damage, and of course, well, that is grounds for a serious lawsuit, duty of care. But if you understand who should be blamed for that, usually you will blame the head of the hospital for that, because clearly the human resource management element in the hospital not working.
Right, correct.
Clearly. And that is the problem we have in society today in understanding how the human resource element in your organization could work without having to go, without employers saying, well, the court are working for us. Right? Hire good consultants or whoever to advise you in human resource management, and you wouldn't have that kind of problem.
You know something I was tell employers, I'm glad you say that. Some I was tell employers that when things like these happen, most employers start to blame, well, Harry didn't do, and Tom didn't do, and Jane didn't do. And I tell them, stop. And look at the man in the mirror and ask yourself, did the company or have the company put policies in place to address these things or guide the worker how these things should be conducted? In the absence of you who being in charge did not set policy or guideline as to how you want these things done, then you have yourself to blame, you know.
Exactly.
Because the worker come to follow instructions.
Exactly.
He come to work to rule, you know.
Exactly.
The worker came to work
so if
to
you
rule.
have policies,
if you have a rule.
and you have a good contract, and you're advising the worker, when the worker do something or when the worker performance falls short,
it has to be predicated against what?
Yes, but you apply certain intervention, you get the worker coaching, you get the worker mentorship.
You at fault.
Or you treat the worker from a disciplinary standpoint and follow due process, of course, do what you're supposed to do, and let go the worker.
Yeah.
If that's what it means.
Yeah.
But you can lose in court if you do that.
Yeah.
It ain't no way you're losing. But sometimes employers just feel that they have management prerogative. They have the prerogative, it's my capital, it's my business. I hire you, you have to do what I say. And if you didn't do that, right, then that's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
You know?
So most employers I always ask, do you have a policy whereby the worker is guided on how it should be done, when it should be done, and so forth? And if this happens, what next, and so forth? The clear process mapping to guide that employee in terms of executing their job efficiently and effectively, and so forth.
Well, you speak about that's a good ideal employer, and the good ideal employer will do that. But my onus and my plea here is at times for the workers, the average workers, who we like to say, I mean, we and it comes to us that they're taken advantage of. But when they come to me, you know, I tell them, you know, but you're not minding your business. You have a pay slip.
Yeah.
You see your contract.
Yeah.
You ask about your terms and conditions. All you know is that you're working. As you say that, I work in. But when we drill down, when we come to try to help the worker, you realize, but wait now. You there 2 years and you don't know anything about anything. You just join a pay, and it's only when a problem arises, you know, they send me home.
You do the Alice, you start to wonder.
You start to wonder.
Yeah.
We know everything about all other sector of employees. We know everything about the minister. We know about the batsman. We know everything but a worker. Listen to me. I tell them, take nothing personal but your pay slip. You see that? That is your business. That is your business. If you get a good trade union leader, if you join a good union, God bless you. But without that, because we don't realize that 90% of workers are not unionized. Mind your business.
So you're saying one of the role of the batsman is education drive now?
Correct.
One of the critical role.
Well, I've seen somebody asking a question here on the text. He want to know about the issue of the 10% rise back pay. I mean, 10% rise. Is this an issue, a bowler, that will hurt the batsman in the wicket?
Well, again, remember now, he came in there on the ticket of the 10%. But now he in government.
He's supposed to hit runs.
He's supposed to answer that question.
Yeah. He's supposed to bat that ball.
He's supposed to bat that ball. Before he was bowling.
Yeah.
And he was bowling and bowling. But now, you're batting.
Yeah, you're on the defensive now.
Now you in government. You are the person charged with answering that question now. You know, it is not Minister Imbert.
Yeah.
No, that runs on the board.
Yeah.
You have to come up now with the answers, and you have to be held accountable to your word. Your same workers who vote and clap you and we love you, They want the 10%, sir.
So now I'm waiting.
They want the 10%, sir.
But the 10%, let me tell you something, is predicated on so many moving factors.
Well, this is what I'm saying. You remember the first day?
So you didn't say that, on the campaign.
You was the one who said the wicket sticky.
Sticky.
And not only sticky, but we have plenty moisture on the outfield. We have a lot of issues.
Promises.
Right? We have geopolitical issues that every day is heaping up. What's going on in Israel right now?
Promises.
Right? That going and create some, but that also going and create some opportunities for us. By the way, with oil and refinery and that kind of thing.
But we can take a major advantage of it. Because we don't have much to sell, 40,000 barrels a day. We're not in the 100 or 200,000 barrels, you know.
Yes.
We'll get some things yet, but still, our exposure in terms of import, we still doing about what?
You see how they're destroying Iran's?
$7-8 billion in food import.
Yeah.
Then we look at our fuel import.
Like we talk about that
everything.
Too.
So when we promise, but promise had to be predicated upon your ability to, one, stabilize the economy, grow the economy, to be able to pay.
And that is responsible trade unionism.
We, in a total, deficit budget, we had 60 billion.
But do we practice
borrowed money that we had to pay back. But I'm not seeing no growth strategy.
Right.
For this batsman to be effective, because here what's going on. We thought the cooler had Lucozade in it for him, you know.
Don't have any of that.
It's no Lucozade.
Don't have that. No Ribena.
No Ribena.
No.
So
that way you tell the workers.
And here what going on. The bottle of water, warm, put himself cold to quench his thirst.
It should be warm.
So he in a funny position now. Trade now, who on the other side of the button, is the only fella now can help people runs on the table, you know.
Because here what, Mr. Selvon? Couple months ago, a man was told to go into bat and make 100 runs in 6 balls now.
Yeah.
And he didn't last. That was his streak. Right? He didn't last. Yeah. He was told to make a century in the last over. And he thought he could do it.
But which one are the batsman? The same batsman that married this one here?
Yes. He thought he could do it. No, from the other side.
I know, but the same Minister Labour?
No. He was
from St. Anne's.
Yes. He had to make.
He got Kobo sweat.
Well,
no, just I want to put in something here. What is historic about this? I mean, a lot of first was achieved, you know. PNM have achieved first woman as leader, first prime minister to stay in office less than a month. We have achieved a first in 3 prime ministers in 1 year. You understand?
Yeah.
We have achieved a first of the first prime minister never said a word in parliament. We are real first, you know.
Yeah.
Trinidad have to record 2025 as a significant year in the politics of Trinidad. A lot of things take place.
He better up in the airport?
But there are no date below it.
They are not in. No, because the innings declared. They declared. Before
below that Kobo sweat.
No, before the. No. No, it was only 6 balls. You can't make a century in 6 balls, you know. I don't know who worked out that, but you cannot make a century.
You know, you really watch that game?
Yeah.
That game really wash it out.
But that is water under the bridge.
Yes,
there's the Labour man to bat now.
Yeah.
And he have to answer all the questions that he posed when he was in his stands. He asked real question and real thing how it should have be and what workers deserve. We all know what workers deserve. Give it to them now.
Yep.
Give it to them now. Give it to them.
But he had to be a referee in the whole game between Capital and Labour.
We had to also be responsible.
Yeah.
Right? We had to also be responsible. And the thing is, I think Trinidadians are what this team that is in office, that is in the bucket now, would do well at is taking advantage of the goodwill that the audience, the people in the pavilion, giving them right now.
And communicate.
Right? And communicate certain things.
Yes, they have to.
Because what is necessary is for the people to understand what is at stake, how the state of the outfield.
We could lose the match,
and that if you push certain things, we could lose the match.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think the captain has to be very, very circumspect.
Yeah.
And very, very careful. I know she want badly to fix some of the things.
And get off that flyer.
But she had to do it with real, you know.
So the batsman in the wicket had to be able to take instructions from off the field.
Yes.
You know, they'll send somebody on the field with instructions. Listen to me.
Let's take this call. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. The third umpires and whoever guests you have there.
Afternoon.
All right. Yes, my brother. Now, President Trinidad and Tobago Villager on the program this afternoon. I only have a simple question, basically, because I trying to find out how it would work, how it really will work. Now, government holds the authority of the country. In respect, most of the time with commerce is concerned, the people who have the conglomerates with all their business, if in case that government has had to borrow from them and all these kind of, being, complementing them now. And now I have in a union that is inside of that government circle, and in my deep consciousness, the bargaining for workers, I feel that there are going to be a conflict of interest anytime. I don't know if it's anytime soon or anytime later. But I can't imagine a bargaining union in cahoots with government. It beaten me from the day I heard it, and still all you're talking, and I hear it, the brain is talking now, and somehow I want to find out how that will work.
Yeah, we want to find out the same.
No, I'm not layman, right? And I mean, I don't know. Brother, I asked the question, and I want to go too deep in this subject this afternoon. Because I don't know my mouth and to tell magnitude. I don't want to go into something that I really can't really supposed to be in. But that question is the important question for me as a layman in Trinidad, as a citizen in Trinidad and Tobago, knowing what a union is. A union is supposed to be an organization completely away from government, so that at any point they could bargain seriously, they could make compromise with the government. Okay, we don't have a problem with that. But I really cannot see them inside with government in cahoots, where government into most of government people is businessmen. I don't think that's stupid here as President Trinidad and Tobago Villager and a representative for the street council, and I have to be very bright and brave. And that is my question. How that going to work?
Well, stranger things have happened. This is not something new in Westminster. As a matter of fact, England, Great Britain, politics.
Well, Mr. Madison, you're going far. We can go in the Caribbean. The history of Caribbean politics has been the JLP, the BLP.
Butler was in the parliament.
The GLP, straight through the Caribbean.
But if you want to look at First World, and you talk about Great Britain, and to some extent you talk about some of the other Commonwealth countries, but like Australia and that kind of thing. But the thing is, it's an interesting question.
Yes.
Not so much how it will work, but more the promises that was made collaboratively.
And in connection, I have to also calculate, because I am Trinidadian and Tobagonian. I know my culture, I know my attitude, I know these things about me. And we kind of sometimes, however we call it, we are no patience, you know. we have a tendency to not have patience when they hear the thing kind of
You mean the pavilion? You mean the pavilion? They can run and they feel easy.
Yeah, you Papa. Go ahead. Ask that question. I'm going to listen.
Thank you, caller.
But Madison, I want to jump in and say this. Yeah, he laid a nice little foundation for to examine the batsman, because we had to ask ourselves a fundamental question. Why did Labour join with politics to get into government? Right?
No, but they always
just
do that.
No. You say why first, and then you say, what is the objective or what you want to achieve by creating that tribe? You must want something out of it. Yes? Yeah, go inside there, all of we come together for a reason, what something we want to achieve. And we believe if I come with you, I will achieve that objective and so forth. Yeah? And they probably know what they discuss and what they want to achieve and what promises were made that you will get what you want if we come together. I don't know what it is union in this regard want to achieve. Somebody said probably they want, well, if you join with me and we win, I will give you.
Let's take this call. Let's take this call, because this is your offer calls.
Yes.
Good afternoon, caller.
Yes, gentlemen. Coming back to you all again. I don't know if you all listened to the Labor Day Faizabad platform. You know, the Prime Minister was on that platform this evening.
Yeah.
Right. And he made certain statements. So that's a certain policy direction she went in a certain way as she joined up with the trade union movement to achieve certain objectives.
Great.
Because she can achieve them as a political party, have a political objectives and doing what she's doing. You understand?
And I agree. I agree with that.
So she made statements today, and guys, we have to examine what she said today. We have to examine what she said on the platform this week today. It's very important in going forward.
Agreed.
Well, we will have to take it in review, as you say.
So I guess tomorrow we will look at the the Minister of Labour. This batsman might be still in the wicket tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we will get a good opportunity to
quite good.
But caller,
we must. I mean, there's something different happening here, so we have to analyze it. We still have to analyze it. We still unsure of a lot of things. You know, we're unsure of a lot of things that will happen because it was never so before that Labour was part of a government from the perspective of having cabinet members in the government, ministers. You know, it had it before. It was there before, but not to the extent of what happening now. Based on the past performance of the last 10 years of the last government, how they treated Labour, how they treated trade union.
Yes.
And I think that is the impetus for the trade union to gravitate towards the opposition today, who is now the government.
Correct.
Because of the treatment of how the last government treated Labour and treated trade unions. So,
excellent.
So let's take another caller.
Excellent point, caller.
Good afternoon, caller.
Yeah, good afternoon again, Mr. Lauketa. Sorry to call back. One, in Trinidad, we always had a history, a symbiotic relationship between Labour and government. I remember in Dr. Williams' days, we had Carlton from Communication Union, who was a senator. We had Nathaniel Critchlow and one or two others. So it's nothing strange for Labour leaders to be appointed in, whether to the Senate or what, in the government. And one correction, I didn't hear what you said. It was Westminster, you said, but there's no Westminster system. It's Westminster, M-I-N-I-S-T-E-R.
Yeah. Thank you for that correction, sir.
Yeah. Okay, brothers, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, as Mr. Mitchell was saying, caller still on?
No, he's gone. Okay.
Yeah, as Mr. Mitchell was saying, you know, we have to find out what is the post-election objective.
Yeah.
Because don't confuse it, eh?
Yeah.
During elections, there are one objective. We join to get rid of the batting side, to out them down.
Yes.
We out them down, runs on the board.
Yeah.
Where things go now, it's a whole different ball game. Because you have your fans, you have the 12th man.
Yeah.
They have certain expectations. You have your captain. You have the sponsors of the team.
Yeah.
Don't forget the sponsors of the team.
Major
influencers. So there's amalgamation of interests that may align with Labour or may not align with Labour.
Correct.
And that is where the metal
It's the pad.
the part.
Yes.
That is where you have to decide. Because all before, it's nice, the objective is clear. Until we win, the objective is to outdown our side.
What next?
We outdown the red side. 100 runs in the last over. He couldn't make it. That is the end of that. Now, you in the wicket. Messages coming from off the field, beyond the boundary, according to CLR James.
Are we hearing any messages?
Yeah. We get any messages from the 12th man too, because a man in the crowd cussing bad. He find it taking too long to score a boundary.
I ain't get my pension yet.
Correct. The 12th man in the pavilion cussing, quarreling, making noise. He find Stephen batting too good. What happened to Stephen Worms? You understand?
Union sell we out.
Correct. And your captain telling you, take your time.
Yeah, we are the umpires.
Yeah. Take your time. Don't look to hook you or get out quick.
Yeah.
Take your time. Instructions coming from off the field. So we have to appreciate that.
We are over still.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Because we open my hand and bat.
Correct. But you have to take your time. Because depending on how you bat this ball, with this 10% and all of this, we could lose the game. If you swing too hard,
we could lose the goodwill.
We could lose the goodwill.
So in this team that there's before the bowlers, we have Labour in public utilities.
Yes.
We have Labour in energy.
Yeah.
And we have Labour overseeing the Ministry of Labour and so forth. Yeah. It'll be very interesting, really and truly. So it's really he have two other batsmen outside in case he get injured, eh?
Correct.
From Labour.
Yes.
Right? So
there are some substitutes.
Some substitutes inside there and so forth. And there would be expectation because people went inside with expectation.
That is
for
the
example,
issue.
TSCT workers to be treated fairly as
Correct.
the case may be. WASA workers to be treated in a particular way as the case may be.
CW workers looking on in good anticipation.
And so forth.
Because as a CW, former,
right.
you know.
But the question is, what is the worker expectation? And is that carried into the field?
Yes.
What is the worker expectation? I don't know. Is he expecting more work? I hear what 10%, so I'm expecting at 10%. I don't know if there's a time frame. This batsman had to, and the team had to deliver the 10%.
Correct.
If it's in the first over, the 10th over, or he could block some overs before he started to swing.
Yeah.
So I don't know when the swinging will start in terms of delivering on promises now.
Yeah.
Right? You say, all right, I'm going and feel out the wicket, I'm feeling the ground.
Yeah.
And by the 6th over...
Let's take another call. Let's take another call. Good afternoon, caller.
Gentlemen, good afternoon.
Afternoon.
I like your discussion. I sit down here back and forth cleaning the yard and I'm listening to you guys. Now, I had a batsman that came into office in 2015.
Right.
And encountered a promise of 15% for public servants. Remember that?
Whoa.
And the first thing in his first over he had was to do was go to the parliament. Didn't take a 10-day vacation. We didn't take a 10 days to sit down and debate. And then when we get there, we still ain't sure what we're doing.
Yeah.
We get into office one time. And one of the first things that we had was to do was go to the parliament to raise the debt ceiling, which the opposition had an issue with, to borrow money to pay the same public servants the 15% that was promised to them by the previous administration. Remember that?
Yes, correct.
You're going good.
You're going good.
Right.
Probably
so now that
warm.
Right. Now that you get into office,
right.
Hear what you ain't meet, eh? You ain't meet a governor of a central bank that tell you I have 3/4 of negative growth. That means I'm in a recession. You ain't meet that here now yet. Up to now, you can't tell me what is the state of the economy financially yet. But you're going to increase the to get the budgetary allocations for the remainder of the months, right? That was on Friday, right?
Yes.
Right. You didn't tell me whether or not you get money to pay the same public servant the 10%. You know, that discussion didn't take place at all. So I had to ask the opening batsman who in charge of Labour again, when would that discussion take place?
Which over you in
yes. Is it that we have to wait 90 days, 120 days? What is the state? Because you hear what happened? The same people told us that the economy crash, there is no money. But promise public servants and promise them a whole heap of things. I heard a young man in the parliament who took over Dr. Rowley's position and asked them, you're giving laptops. Did you do how to put it?
Cost analysis?
Well, no. A study to determine whether you're giving it to a poor home or a rich home. There's a
means test?
Means test. Did you do a means test? Said, no, we're giving it to children. Doesn't matter. So the man who lives in the same 1% that they complain about, he giving a laptop too. Gentlemen, enjoy your day. All the best. Be safe.
And those are questions.
Good bowling.
Those are questions people.
The pavilion alert, you know, Marty.
Those are questions.
That's a fair delivery.
Yeah, those are questions those are balls that will be bowled at you.
Correct.
That is being bowled already.
Yeah. And you have to now either play, hit, or understand what is the outfield, how the outfield will receive that.
And the beauty of this game, Matheson, is that sometimes the bowler will hide his action, so you can't predict. We could predict this ball. This ball coming. There's no question about if it coming, but will you be able to bat? We know it coming. He not hiding the ball from here. He bowling pace. He bowling pace. You have to face it.
And my thing is, nothing wrong in making... People have to do... Politicians just have to do what they have to do to win elections.
We understand.
So nothing wrong with that.
Yes.
It's just that they then have to turn around and make responsible decisions.
Correct.
And responsible questions will be asked, and we will now have to determine whether or not certain things that we said or didn't say, could we support it or not support it?
Yeah. I think some of the moves this team mentioned is reallocating funds and so forth to fulfill the commitment. So they may fulfill the commitment by stopping some expenditure in some areas and so forth, shift around the money. But remember, the increase in public servant salaries, a sustained bill you have to maintain. So I don't know if they'll be looking at a position of retrenchment by attrition, redefine some position in the public servant, or do fill some of the vacancies by realigning roles and responsibility in the public service to maintain and over time reduce the salary, the public service debt in terms of salary and so forth. So there are some moves they could make. Right? So Minister of Finance, Minister of Trade, the Minister of Labour, in terms of communicating the strategy to both sides, capital and labour, what is happening and so forth, could bring a kind of balance instead of batting on the field as the case to be. But you have to have a message to communicate that comes from finance, finance and trade in terms of how this economy moving and so forth. Planning in terms of what is the overarching vision for growth in the country and so forth. All of this are the
extent, and I know we dealt with this on the opening at March Day, when we looked at when we did the pitch analysis and that kind of thing. To a large extent, a lot of these concerns that may emanate from the worker who is seeking to get the 10% could be somewhat augmented in other areas of life. Because remember, most of what people were complaining about before elections was that money on the table, food on the table,
The basket of food is going in. The basket of groceries.
And the thing is, if we do things, if the country, if the captain do things that will reduce things like things in other areas.
We call it social wage. Look at it from a social wage standpoint.
Because of the inflation and that kind of thing. Transportation, for instance, we talk
public
about
servant, bus free for public service and so forth.
Not necessarily
I just saying.
But some of the things that kills productivity in this country is traffic jam. Simple. To get home and you think you're working 8 to 4, 8 hours, but you're really working about 15.
Yes.
Right? Because it's taking it 3 hours
from leaving home to getting back home.
And 3 hours to get back home. That doesn't make sense.
Correct.
Right? So all those things are things that
reduce working hours in the public service and all them kind of things.
Or stagger
working hours
and this
so
is the
forth.
challenge of industrial relations in 2025.
Yeah. So the realignment of a
collective
number of
bargaining has to be done in a very ingenious way.
Yes.
In this current
and we will come back to that. Let's take a call.
Yes.
Yeah. Good evening, caller.
Yeah, you know what I observe about as a young man growing up? China used to look like when the men on the port, leaving the port on an evening. Bicycles. So when you look at China, 20 years, let me say 30 years ago,
you seen bullet train.
It's bicycles. Today, now you're seeing bullet trains. And you know what I observed? Every province find a niche within their province. They find a technology whiz, they find a phone whiz, and they finance these individuals. So every province, one province create a bus that moves around that province without a driver. One province have a train suspended in the air upside down that moving. One build a bus that running over all cars. In Trinidad and Tobago, we sit down and rely on what the state is going to do for us, and what the state will give you an education and make you a scientist, but you ain't produce nothing.
Well, we talk about that in our march and in our picture analysis, and the challenge is, again, the education system. The education system doesn't work in the way it should be working for us.
I will add to what the caller say. Caller, I hope you're hearing me, that I said, and what qualifies your statement is when you have lecturers from the University of the West Indies protesting for increasing salary. That is why we are where we are today.
And that I see there's a university, I think it's Howard, we get a piece of money and chum giving them. They do research in almost anything you could think about.
And
because of their doing their research, private entities
Exactly. That's what universities should be doing.
So we'll be doing the protesting the government for more money, and that's why we are in the morass. Right? Just let me give you a simple one caller. I'm glad you're there. We are flooding in this country every year. Everybody know the rainfall that this country experiences on a yearly basis. We know the land mass. We know the low-lying areas below sea level, and you are telling me up to now we can come up with a solution for flooding in Trinidad, but they're marching and protesting for increasing I'll fire all of them.
No, you see the problem with that is, I heard somebody said that the other day. I looked at that problem. I live in Sawabat area. There's a piece of land across, you see where Mova Junction is? Where Suzuki Lifestyle Motors is? There's a piece of land across there that used to be a swamp land. A few decades ago, Toyota, Robert and Bolan Amar tried to put a building down inside it. It wasn't successful. When the rain falls and all the water comes down the Caroni River and there is nowhere to go, it fills that entire swamp area along with a portion of the what we call the landfill. Now the landfill has grown tremendously, almost the height of the Twin Towers in Port of Spain. You know what I'm saying to you?
Yes.
If you drive into the landfill and you look at the landfill and you look at the Twin Towers down the road, you're almost at the same height. It doesn't look so from out the outside.
Yeah.
Right. Right. So that water that used to settle in that entire area cannot no more do that, because there's a ton load of people backfill those places across the highway in El Chico and put multi-story buildings.
Well, planning to a large extent, and we dealt with a lot of
this. Problem.
A lot of this we dealt with when Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday. Planning and
because you have money, philosophy. Once you have money, the corporation could say what they want, do what they want. You throwing up the building.
Correct.
That is our problem. In America, I tell them, if you look at what's going on in America, Trump sending home all migrants, but here what the farmers tell them now and small businesses and bars, hey, you better mash bricks, because you realize these people, if you send them home, and nobody to do the work, So you see that food increase, that price of food that all they're talking about the government, if we continue with the import that we import, and prices go up there, what do you think will happen here? If oil price go up, what do you think will happen to the cost of shipping?
Exactly.
Right?
That's
so
already going up by 50% almost.
All right, so then when we devalue the dollar, they was asking for 10 years ago, What will happen to us here? Gentlemen, enjoy your evening. Be safe.
Thank you. Let's take another call, guys.
No.
Yeah, caller, you have just about 20 seconds.
Well, probably I'll call after.
Okay, you call after.
Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be paying some bill again. We have 1 hour again, and you are free to call. The number is 342-0081, 466-5391, and 771-1791. We are going to pay some bills. When we return, we will continue this discussion.
Yes, 20 seconds on the call. Good foundation.
You've got bills to pay, and so do we. Let's go pay some bills on the street 919 FM.
Don't miss June savings at Furniture Plus. Get up to 50% off shop appliances, furniture, electronics, mattresses, and more. Buy now, pay later with affordable hire purchase plans. Plus, earn Caribbean Airlines. Travel miles with your purchase. Visit any Furniture Plus stores or shop online.
Campari. Red Passion. Embrace the mix.
Campari Red Passion, full action, this is Red Passion. Embrace the mix, add Campari, make it turn and twist. Add your chaser in your drink, Campari Red Passion, make the nicest mix. Campari!
Campari Red Passion. Embrace the mix. Must be 18 years or older to drink. Drink responsibly.
This long weekend, Pizza Hut's serving up big vibes and even bigger value. Get 1 large tavern pizza, 1 large specialty pizza, and single breadsticks, all for just $270. More days, more ways to crave. Let's pizza. Offer is available via all ordering channels from June 19th to 22nd. Pizza Hut. Now that's delivering.
If you really want to see change in this party, over. We are not an ordinary party, but rather we are a rally. Be voting no. For I hope my say. We voting no. For I hope my say. On June 22nd, the people's champion, the only real change for the PNM internal election. We voting for, everybody say, yeah, June 22nd.
The Gap Man Limited specializes in products that cater to all your health needs. The Male Enhancement Package targets the areas of the body that contribute to erectile dysfunction. The Male Enhancement costs $1,400. The Gap pills are priced at 250 pills for $500 and 500 pills for just $900. For the best in eye care, get the super combination of a Super Bright and the Body Healer. To improve the heart's function and circulation, get the Gap pills and Formula C. To get a total body cleanse daily, use the Gap Body Healer and Big C, all for a super low price of $1,300. To order your products from the Gap Man Limited, call 628-4531 for products that cater to all your health needs.
For more info, contact 476-7268.
Planning your Tobago getaway? Choose the highest Google-rated car rental company on the island, O'Neill Auto Rentals Tobago. Located just minutes from the A&R Robinson International Airport, at O'Neill, we pride ourselves on being the most tech-savvy car rental company in Tobago. Our process is 100% digital. No paperwork, no long lines. From easy pickup to seamless returns, renting a car in Tobago has never been simpler. WhatsApp us now at 1-868-361-1042 to book your vehicle. Don't forget to mention promo code RADIO2 to receive a 5% discount on your rental. Send a WhatsApp message to 1-868-361-1042 today. That's 1-868-361-1042. O'Neill Auto Rentals Tobago, the easiest, most reliable car rental experience on the island.
Vehicle availability is subject to change. Driver must be at least 25 years old and have a valid driver's license to book. For more information, visit www.rentalcartobago.com.
At Flow, our customers are our people, and our people are our priority. So we're raising the bar and going all out for our customers. To be your partner that's always within reach and to provide you with a network that keeps getting better. Because you are at the heart of everything we do, and everything we do is to ensure that we keep your rhythm flowing, no matter what.
June 22nd, PNM internal elections. Vote for the people's champions. The only real change. June 22nd, PNM internal elections. Vote for the people's champions. The only real change. June 22nd of June, PNM internal elections. Vote for the people's champions. The only real change.
Welcome to Pizza Hut.
Hi, can I get a medium pepper?
Here you go.
Oh, wow. How did you...
It's Pizza Hut's Hot to Go. So you get taste, quality, and speed all in one go.
And I can get
one medium hot to go for $89 or two medium hot to go for $169 in pepperoni, Hawaiian, and veg, Monday to Friday.
Can you
get your girlfriend to forgive you as fast as our hot to go pizza? No, sir.
Come in and try our hot to go specials today at locations nationwide. Pizza Hut. Now that's delivering.
So line up, link up, creep up, rock and come in. It's all about the fastest growing reggae show in the land without a doubt. Reggae Rock Sundays on the Shit 919 FM with yours truly, MC Duke and Selector Kochi on the ones and twos. So make it a date and don't be late. 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. right here on the Shit 919 FM. Got 'em our way, King Selassie.
Share the live. Share the live. The Street 919 FM on Facebook and Instagram. Share the live. Iowa George on Instagram. Share the live. Iowa TV and Street TV on YouTube. Share the live. The Street 919 FM.
Yes, callers and listeners, the Empires are here again.
Yes.
We are still looking at the batsman in the wicket, who is the Minister of Labour. And for those who have been listening on earlier on, you would have heard is that we are talking specifically, we spoke specifically about the capacity of this batsman, and we related back to the outfield, the state of the pitch, the wicket, and we are now examining that. You are invited to call in as members of the pavilion to hear your take on what
how the game is being played.
How the game is being played.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm seeing the president is calling again. Let's take his call. Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. President is here. Mr. Villager, President Villager. I must maintain the villager, so I know I ain't the president of the country. So, right. So here what my next good question is. I believe it's a good one. Now, I think earlier on I just heard that the Prime Minister Kamala made some sort of statement, which I didn't hear. I believe we will hear that later as far as I understood all you say, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, when we do hear that, I would expect that I would like to get a survey, really, even if I'm not going to get it now, but I know that ain't really right now, but to get a survey of how much of the pavilion workers of the country really appreciate that linkage with the government and the union. That is an important thing, because at least we're going to know where we're heading with this link. Because believe me, above all the things, I might say other countries, I understand mine. But I would like to know that linkage, how much people really appreciate it. And if I could get that survey anytime before 100 days, because we have 100 days, they have 100 days to show up thing beside the year you're looking for. Right? I'm dealing with my 100 days. Let me see how much happened by the 100 days. But now, in this situation with Labor Day, I want to know the survey of how much people really appreciate the union with the government. I really want to find out that, because that is a mark for me to understand if we should go along, how we should go along, or whatever that could happen. That's me. Something.
Let's see if he could analyze that.
Well, you see, the caller is right in his perspective, but it's really based on, one, the lack of education in the public about the nexus between labor and politics, right? And two, because traditionally, labor has spent most of its time attacking politicians. To finally join the wagon now, because of circumstance, it's convenient to do so, seems to be quite hypocritical to the average onlooker. Because all the time you were there pelting stone at the government, but now you find yourself part of the government. Are you willing to be stoned as well?
No, we could.
And that's why talking now.
Yeah, but we could look at it both ways too. We could look at it as labor is inside the belly of capital. Labor could better construct an argument for or against a decision that is being made.
Well, that's not capital. I mean, you remember it's a tripartite relationship. So the industrial relation system is made up of government, labor, and workers, and capital.
Well, this was what I started off saying earlier, in the sense that if I say I can give you 10 or I can give you 2, as the case may be, the fact that labor is part of that decision that said I could give you 10, then labor is aware that 10 is possible, because you're part of the chorus that said 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. You're part of the chorus. And don't tell me labor was guessing or just going along to get along.
But I feel, somehow I feel...
Are we saying labor was going along to get along?
Somehow I feel, you know, what we had to understand to a large extent is the difference between politics and governance, right?
Yes.
So, politics would have made certain promises and that kind of thing. Governance now had to say whether or not we could fulfill those promises and how we will do that.
But labor was part of the politics.
Yeah, but listen,
and now they're part of the governance.
Right, so okay.
So labor can't come and say, well, I ain't getting what I want, when you was part of both decisions.
No, but you know how government is work. So,
but you part of it, but labor is part of it.
Yeah, but you know how government is work.
So that's what Village was saying there. You was part of saying, promising 10.
And I understand that. I mean, that's a simplistic way to look at it.
Well, here's the reality, gentlemen. Here's the reality. Let me read it.
Wait. Now, within that piece of conversation, the justice, the industrial court, how, now you're kind of even thinking like you exempt the industrial court there now because you want governmental partner.
No, the industrial court is a separate thing. The court is a separate part of the equation. The court is something different. The court is...
It has its own remit.
Yeah.
It has its own remit. Yeah.
It's part of the separation of powers in a kind of way, you know? Forget about the court for now. The court had to do what the court had to do.
All right. Okay. All right.
Finance Minister.
So let's continue there and fix up. I go get all the answers now.
Let me just take our next call.
Yeah, go ahead.
Good afternoon, caller.
Yeah, good afternoon. Sorry to badger into you. Undoubtedly, the incumbent, the present government has a Herculean task in terms of running this country and running or managing the economy. There's no doubt. Nobody can doubt that, deny that. But as one of your panelists just mentioned, that you have to embark on, you know, as we say, they need to scale down or cut back or eliminate the kind of waste corruption in order to derive the money. They make promises, yes, with respect to public officers and whatnot. They would have to do that, and you have cutbacks there. You have public officers who retired from the public service for years. They got their gratuity and their pension, and they're still working on contract. You need to get rid of that.
Yes.
That is one way you could find the money to make it. You have a lot lawyers who've been paid up to over $1 billion. That money could be channeled into other areas.
Agreed. The money is here to pay, man.
You have rice people who leases and all kind of waste, friends and family and all kind of things. You have to deal with that. If you deal with the waste, if you deal with the corruption, you may find some money in order to pay the public officers.
And I think that's what the captain. I think that's what this captain doing right now. You would notice that probably 3/4 of the state haven't really been put into function as yet. The boards and that kind of thing haven't been put in place. So I guess this captain is doing some of that. I mean, examining what has gone and examining what is there and making
closing some gaps and so forth.
Well,
so which is a good thing, you know.
I was about to say, gentlemen, that the Minister Tanku has announced that what should have been a 5.5 billion projected deficit is now a 9.6 billion deficit. That's the finance minister.
One of the things that I am hearing about a well-run economy, you and I know, everybody knows that this economy was in trouble from the last 5 years. You know that.
So that's true.
We ought not.
That's true. That's true.
We know that. And the former prime minister, which was Keith Rowe, told them that if they don't get find some oil or by some miracle, that the cook.
Yes. Yes. We heard that as well.
So some people fold their arms and look back. And then you see that in a society, when you want to talk about good governance, and you talk about people having patience and all that, you must demonstrate your desire to exercise equity, equality in the society. You as the government, the executive, you and top officials can't take your big set of money and run with it and leave the public officers down and tell them 2%, 0, 0, 0, 0. You have to show that is how you govern. And the fact remains is that even if the government would have to go into deficit budgeting, right, with the expectation that they would be able to derive income or revenue to meet that down the road, they would have to do it because the fact remains is that apparently the government, the prime minister, I don't know where she got all this, whether she's just posturing, but what she's saying is that they're going to make the payment.
Right. So what we simply saying here is we understand that we understand the outfield, we understand the wicket that this government is batting on, and we understand also that there is a certain level of goodwill that exists, and I'm hearing it in you and others, and we feel the same way. There's a certain amount of goodwill
and optimism,
and optimism for this particular team at this time. But the question is, what do they have to do to keep that? Are they going to give something? Are they going to continue holding the baton, playing the ball? What can they do at this time?
The thing about it here is that they would have made certain promises, and I don't think the promise is that much. It has to do with basically playing with people's salary and whatnot. The correct payment salary or whatever it is. But this government has, as one of your panelists said, you need to communicate with the people.
Yes.
You need to keep them abreast of what is the development. You have
correct.
You have to walk and talk with them.
Yes, correct.
You have to see,
and that was one of the things that was lacking in the last administration.
You have to play that role. You have to be very open. And you have to be transparent.
Yes.
Everybody looking at you, you know.
Correct.
Yes. And the gentleman...
And this notion of government entering into what you call non-disclosure agreement. Yes, we know that you have, but that is more prevalent in the private sector.
Correct.
Good point.
Because you shouldn't be talking that with state funds. You should be able to, you should have to be able to account at some point in time. Yeah?
Yes.
So these things, they have a proliferation of non-disclosure. Nobody knows what money they borrow, how much, what's the interest on it, when it is to be repaid. Nobody knows.
You lending out my money and you telling me you can't tell me.
And the public has to pay it back.
On that. So there's something that we have to learn. We have to learn from 1986.
Yes.
And you have to learn from 2010. And you have to learn from 2015 to 2025.
But what do you think this team could do to get that along and to get the bat out of that 50 overs like the other team before?
Which other, the other team before?
Yeah.
Well, the thing about it here is this, is that I said it already, you need to keep the people abreast, you need to be open
communicate.
To the people,
yes.
let the people know what you're doing, how you're doing it, right? You can't, this question about secrecy, that, you have to get away from that. You need to be empathetic with the people, you need to be compassionate, you need to go down to the people, right? You have to, that is where communication again. Right? And again, when you say you want to, what you say you want to do, you do it.
Yes.
I agree with you 100%.
And if you can't do it, sit down and reason with them. Talk with them.
I agree with that 100%.
Because you can't rally workers in support. And now that you've gotten where you reach where you want to go, forget to tell them.
I have dealt with people for quite a long time. And Trinidadians in the main, they're reasonable people, you know.
Correct.
Once you communicate with them in the right way, but if you plain, you could walk your arm and money, you tell him, well, listen, I can't pay the money today, you know, because I ain't get paid and probably so and so, and you tell him and you sit down and you can understand that. But you can't be running all over the place and you don't want to see the man, you don't want to talk to him. When you see him move from here, gone from my boy, you're looking for problem, and you could use that to demonstrate what is required in the context of a government. And you saw that in between 2015 and 2025.
Yes. Yeah.
People were loved, they were abusive, insulting people.
Not that we didn't understand that there were some things that needed to be done.
Yeah.
But I mean, how you do it with that?
You have to manage the perception that everything is being done fairly. You must do that.
Well, thanks again for taking my call.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Too. Yeah.
So we see the batsman, the wicket, have to deal with conveying and communicating.
But even coming, I mean, listening to, I don't want to just scratch the surface because every time we examine the dynamics at play,
yes,
we must also look at it from a whole 360 perspective, so that we wouldn't fall short of, we wouldn't talk about these issues by just looking at the simplistic things. Let me take this quote. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So for instance, we had to examine this from the standpoint also of understanding that there are external factors that we could exploit, also that could assist us. And we had the public must be able to see that, for instance, your foreign service, for instance, your understanding of, say, China and Africa, the growth of China, Africa, India, and where you should put people there to encourage investment in this part of the world, because there are a lot of areas for that. Direct foreign investment. Let me take this call. Yeah. Good evening, caller.
Yeah. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Okay, one salute. I was just thinking there, in terms of communicating, I remember Mr. Chambers in his time, or in his latter days as Prime Minister, he had a program called Accounting to the Taxpayers, where the hierarchy of the government used to go to different areas and discuss accounting matters, budgetary matters and things. And the meetings went on for maybe about 3, and then it crashed somewhere in St. Joseph, where there was an angry crowd. So maybe the government could, because no other government tried that after, so maybe this administration could look and see, right, how they could maybe tamper with it and see how maybe that could work in terms of accounting to the taxpayers, in terms, instead of saying non-disclosure and having non-disclosures. The next thing is that American HR. I don't know if you all ever heard about that name, Susan Lawler. She's an American human resource specialist, and she wrote somewhere in 1999, I think it was, that it's time that unions move from adversarial bargaining and practices and have you have reasonable relationships and cut out the adversity in collective and bargaining. And I think it was tried in America and it was successful. So I do not know if trade unions in Trinidad would follow that pattern.
Well, just to answer that, just to discuss, say a little bit about that, because we're looking at the labor batsman, and that is something. That last point that gentleman made there is so critical. And it's something I've been saying all the time. Labor must understand that they have a role to play in society too, and that role must be encouraging the growth through productivity, and therefore collective bargaining should take the stance of pay for performance. And there are a lot of things as an HR professional you would understand what pay for performance means, right? That is where you measure people by the work they do, because everything you do in the workplace has a dollar value to it. And if we could pay you according to that, not necessarily not by what you're thinking, you could be paid for performance by special kind of rewards outside of your fixed salary, right? And that sometimes the workers will, if that is in your collective agreement, sometimes workers will appreciate the environment and feel some sense of ownership for the workplace and that kind of thing because of that. That could even be applied with teachers.
Yeah, but I hold, I do hold a divergent view on that. To the extent that performance is also influenced by other critical factors. They are not always in control.
Well, I was thinking all things being equal.
All things being equal. Because I come to work by you and
you give me the tools to perform effectively. But when I perform, you vex with me.
Because we were talking about the police officers, we were talking about the fire service officers and other public sector workers and public sector negotiations. You know how it is go, especially in the protective services where they don't have the right to strike, they don't have the right to take industrial action. However,
you can be demotivated. That is right to be demotivated.
Correct.
Exactly so.
But you hear them complaining about tools. You can't tell them bring their own gun. And bring their own vest.
You can't tell them bring their own door fire.
Correct. You understand? So the state has a responsibility. A serious responsibility. And in this land of money, I shudder to think that we taking picture with buying vehicle. Because they have no vehicle to administer the same what planet is Anaconda. They want them to
good.
Yes.
I can never forget flying.
They don't have the tools. And they don't have the tools. And you're sending them, and they're sending them in some very turbulent communities. I'm very unprepared. Very, very unprepared.
Now you mentioned something, Matty, and I was stick it in there because I give me the opportunity to roll it. As you know, in the court, once you open my door, we could run in. Right? You open the door. And you talk about the responsibility of the government relative to stimulating the economic activity in the country. So labor, to some extent, could have more opportunity, for tools and equipment to perform and give the level of productivity we want. Without the money, we don't do that. So on the 6th of June, I make a public announcement I'm making here now, 6th of June, I feel the Afri-Exim Bank at the start sponsoring.
6th of June?
6th of July, sorry. I feel the Afri-Exim Bank at the start sponsoring a program here. Jamaica, only 2 countries in the Caribbean, 2 islands in the Caribbean haven't signed the partnership agreement. Jamaica and Trinidad.
Why are you so?
We will get into that. But on the 6th to the 8th of July, CARICOM heads of government taking place in Jamaica, Montego Bay. Jamaica will be signing the partnership agreement. So you only have Trinidad who haven't signed the partnership agreement. So I'm employing the government and the team that is batting to take advantage while they're in Jamaica and the CARICOM heads a government meeting between the 6th to the 8th, they sign along with Jamaica. That will move the availability of funds that are available for businesses in the Caribbean.
Small businesses especially.
Small businesses in the Caribbean move from 1.3 billion to $3 billion available to stimulate economic growth and trade. More so. I'm going slow.
And that's why I talk about Africa.
That's why you open the window for me to jump in.
Yeah.
ECOWA, the chairman of ECOWA, who is the president of Nigeria. Well, right now they'll be hosting something on the 27th in Nigeria with the Exim Bank to the 2nd anniversary meeting and so forth. They will also be in. Oh boy, things are happening so much with Africa and ECOWA. So he will be in St. Lucia on the 27th, right? The chairman of ECOWA will be in St. Lucia on the 27th for about 7 or 8 days as the case may be, dealing with opportunities with the CARICOM community, dealing with that 15-member state of ECOWA. You're talking Burkina Faso, Nigeria, Ghana, all of them and so forth, that 15 states inside there. And there's a golden opportunity for Trinidad now to seize a role in playing to start creating the availability of funds for private sector organization, to start turning around this economy. Beautiful, beautiful opportunity. This month, from the 27th of this month to the end of July, is beautiful, prime opportunity for we to start turning this around. And I hope this team sees the opportunity. And I'm saying it publicly because I know they listen to the program. Right?
Well, we did say this batsman needs a lot of...
He needs a lot.
And the captain too. I think she has been...
So Minister of Trade, the first thing the Minister of Trade said was, hey, let me start dealing with Africa.
Yes.
Africa is coming to you now, brother.
Yes.
And
Africa will be on the doorstep.
This Burkina Faso, I mean, the kind of leaps, they are frightening Europe right now.
But during the break, Stephen...
The kind of decisions that taken with the goal and everything.
Here's what on the agenda for the African Exim Bank and ECOWA and the... Yeah, I'll write it down here. Can Africa and the Caribbean rise in a fractured world? Wow. That is the theme of the conference.
Wow.
So they're thinking Caribbean trade, Caribbean trade, Caribbean trade. Trinidad have to fall in that conversation. Only we out of the conversation.
Big market.
But we not in the conversation.
A huge market.
Jamaica jump in the conversation. They say we sign in on the 6th.
Yeah. Huge market. I mean they are
so
poised to become bigger than China.
ECOWA alone is over 400 million people in ECOWA.
A young population.
The continent is 1.4 billion on the continent.
Gentlemen, let's rein it in. Let's try. We were discussing during the break about efforts and what we could do. We were discussing, Stephen, what we could do to help this batsman. What, the umpires, we don't get involved.
You mean what the administration could do, the team in general?
No, what advice we can give to the
batsman must have a strategy. He must have a strategy.
Well, the batsman, in my opinion, I mean, he have to piggyback from the main philosophy of the team.
Correct.
Right? And well, I always talk as a specialist in human resource management and
labor law
management.
Yes.
That it always begins with a vision and a mission and strategic objectives, and then break down into different areas. But in this case, this batsman have to take into consideration some of the things that will get him scoring points. And that is, first, the legislation. You have to fix the legislation or advocate for the legislation to be fixed. And there are key areas, some of which we spoke about earlier on, that needs to be addressed in the IRA. And the IRA, in my opinion, if a simple thing like tenure for judges,
security of tenure
for industrial court judges,
yes.
That to me will say a lot.
Yes.
Because then a judge may not feel beholden in any way to make decisions that would benefit any particular party.
Yeah.
Because he could be sent home after 3 years or, you know, that kind of thing. And that's one of the areas that I feel that they should address. But that's a small area because we spoke about the Recognition and Certification Board.
Yes.
We spoke about the Minister and the Ministry of Labour and the power of the Ministry of Labour. Listen, Section 2 of the Act talks about who is a worker and who is not a worker. To me, that's something that could be determined by the Minister.
Yeah.
Of course.
You'd rather the Act could be more explicit as to who is a worker and who is not a worker. So as soon as you reach by the Minister, you'd rather reach in court, you'd rather send that to the board to figure that out.
Exactly.
That could be figured out by the Minister.
Yeah, and there's precedent for that, and that is a very important question you talk about there, because in this new gig economy, where methods and means of work is changing, you have work by apps.
Yeah.
You know, the landmark case and the UK Supreme Court, the Uber case.
The Uber case, I was just going to talk about
has changed
how the landscape.
And we need to get on board.
Labor and contract labor.
Correct.
You know, all those things. I mean, the world stay at home, work from at home. All those things are things.
The work week.
COVID.
Shortening of the work week.
Shortening of the work. All those things COVID would have brought in and helps us. And it beats me. Why we talking so much about productivity and finding money to do things, and why the previous governments previous teams, I should say, haven't thought about those things.
And probably they're the wrong coach.
Put more rounds on the board.
Probably they're the wrong coach.
Well, part has to be a paradigm shift. Because
paradigm shift now.
Traditionally, productivity's bottom line is profit. Correct. And if you look at it in that narrow sense, then I want you there not 8 to 4, I want you there 8 to 8. But we have already to discuss, especially so you have a lot of experience in the security sector. What type of worker is that? Is that really a productive worker? He don't really care who break in your place, you know. He tired. He working 48 hours and you sending him down there.
And we talk about that.
We talk about that
yesterday.
So productivity in that context.
He working for 16 hours and he home thinking about who my wife right now.
Yeah, correct.
Who keeping my wife company.
You have to worry about your welfare.
Yes.
You know, which really we have left to the whims and fancies of a union. But you know, as an HR professional, in well-run agencies, some unions have no place because the CEO and the company takes care of you. They take care of all your welfare. Look at unionization.
The unitary perspective of
look at unionization in oil companies. What you know why? Because the oil company have a program for your son. You could enroll.
School for your children.
School for your children.
Yes.
You see how they treat their worker?
Hospital for the workers.
Good. Benefits. Have a little card they could swipe. And they take care of their worker and they exact their labor. But in circumstances where that is not the thinking, and the thinking is just how to maximize and exploit the worker, for want of a better word.
And management prerogative.
Management prerogative and all that ego. We have to change that paradigm.
And of course we talk about the contract and how contracts are used.
Correct. Terms and conditions of work.
To control workers or to control the work. In ways that some of them don't even understand.
Yes, and employers have to admit, if union density and union, then the law says you must come to a trade union to access the court. And we have 10% or less union density in Trinidad and Tobago.
80,
how many people are getting justice?
Well, those that seeking justice is from the 70% that will go under Section 51(1)(c), right? Any union of which you work as a member in good standing.
So
but then you have a challenge with the employer stymieing the process,
sending it to the wilderness,
by sending the matter
to the wilderness
certification board, and then the recognition and certification board asking some very stupid questions that doesn't take into consideration the reason why the matter is sent to the court in the first place by the worker.
Yes. Yes.
Because it has nothing to do with a bank account. The worker don't nothing about a bank account, the union bank account. They have no control over that. That's not the worker concern. The worker pay dues.
And our representation,
because you want representation.
Yeah, full stop.
So you send it to die because you feel that that's a trick, that's a way you could slow down a matter in the court and have it running for 5 years and once it's a stupid question. I think that's madness.
So
and
this,
people who support
but you feel
that
the
crazy.
batsman understand that?
But I don't think they understand that because if they understand that, they would have fixed that about 10 years ago, 15 years ago.
But probably the coach that they have, a coach them right to come in the wicket. And probably we need to set up now. This batsman need to set up.
We are the umpires, eh?
Yeah.
So we could only say out or out.
Yeah, but we had to say, we had to give some analysis.
Yes.
We had to give some analysis.
And it has been easier to say traditionally that government has failed labor. But the deeper question is, has labor failed labor? Has labor failed labor?
That's a good question.
Yes.
That's
Has
a good
labor
question.
failed labor?
Yeah.
Because those...
I think the answer to that is in the affirmative.
Those things are is the prerogative of the union to organize the disorganized.
Yeah.
To organize your workers. You can't have the government to do that. Right? You get in your dues. You have your RMU. You take an oath to say that you're going to settle collective agreements. And you have...
I would really
you have 12 years outstanding.
I really like to hear.
I fail unions.
And you're driving wrong big.
We'll all fail.
Yeah, you're driving wrong big.
And it's easy to say the government do it. And you're winning election. You understand? Who you want to do that? You want the state to come in the election? In your union, in your private affair with you and your members, and members out there to listening to us. It is your duty to hold your unions to account.
Let's hear what Mr. President had to say again. Mr. Third Umpire.
Yes, okay. And, well, the pavilion is talking here now. And I mean something here, right here. Now, the Labour Minister, and he knows, the Labour Minister, and you know where he is in the union now, but he's going to get a double pay. Because he's going to get money from all the members and them, and the government going and fix you up a piece of money. I tell all you see this thing? And the next question I want to ask, so let me finish answer up that one day in time because I don't know where to go with the question. But the next one I want to ask, that is the umpires themselves. I could be bold-faced here, but would you get a sponsor for this program so that it could be properly paid so it could stay on this station so that we could get representatives on the program, if it every day, every 3 days, every 4 days, 5 days, period, so that we could keep them in position to keep asking them questions on the street, so that the street council in link also could get a, because it have people out there who I believe have money in their pocket and right and will get the promotion that will help these two programs to stay because it is very important. People don't study what counseling community to the greatest extent again. So that we're making a counsel and we're making the provision for consciousness towards counseling on the media, which is important. We are in an age now that social media and so forth, it is so important. So even the communication department, all of them who come down the road don't get that privilege to talk on your program. So we go hear it from the street council and well Trinidad and Tobago. So that is coming from coming now from the pavilion. And the pavilion asks for that privilege. And I hope that all the money people and all the educated people could work towards that. I like how you talk about the Brexit bank. We have to go at it, and we only have to go at the CARICOM 10-point plan. Or they wake up, Pan-African!
Well, I mean, the right people are listening, so I don't need to respond to that.
No,
the right people are listening.
Now, something I observe with this team that is batting right now. I don't know if they had it, but normally, you had a man being a Labour leader yesterday. You won election and you just become a minister tomorrow. I don't know what level of coaching, training, I don't know the governance acumen of the batsman.
I think
they were. I don't know if they had a retreat for MPs, for ministers, for cabinet retreat, which is normally when a government comes in, they have a cabinet retreat where they align them and so forth, roles and responsibility. I don't know if the batsmen have an advisory committee, which I am looking at it, and there's so much thing to do. You as minister, now, the way it's structured now, should have a little advisory committee. Now, here's the troubling thing. The fact that all these issues that are brought on the table today still exist from way MacLeod time coming up the road time, which means the people, in my opinion, I might be wrong, within the ministry do not have the capacity to formulate plans to correct these lacuna. Probably that's why it's lingering so long, because people don't know how to approach it. So probably if this minister look at these things as issues.
You got to look at this program.
This is what I'm getting at. So there are people with capacity, like the umpires, who may be in a position to help craft, or assist him in crafting the relative laws or legislation to correct these gaps and so forth, and bring a better tripartite arrangement, a smooth arrangement between capital, between labor, and so forth. But you have to make a difference. So I'm saying, don't go in the wicked. And the last set of labor people that was in the wicked, out for duck. Don't go out for duck. All of them out for duck because nothing happened. They went in at 0 and they leave at 0 because they made no change at all.
Patrick Manning said that what you need to be a minister is a level head and common sense. And that is what all of them, for some reason, think it is. Let's take this call. Yeah. Good afternoon, caller.
Good evening. I was listening to Mr. President. You called it a caller. I think he is Mr. President or something like that.
President of the community or something.
Community president.
If he is a layman, and to me, I don't think he's any big, as he said, university graduate or any big sort of, person, just an ordinary layman, and he could, to me, make so much common sense. You don't need any committee, or you don't need any kind of, you're looking to somebody. Look within ourselves, and we will find all the answers. I shouldn't say all, but most of the answers we need. You just have to have the political will, right? And how should I put it? The political intelligence, right? You don't have to be no big high person. You don't have to have no committee. You don't have to have no, because I find we're always looking to somebody. You're always looking for somebody else. You're always looking for, so that's my little thing. I find that man who spoke,
So, ma'am, we agree with you 100%. The thing is, one of the things, there's a fundamental misunderstanding of the role the parliament play, and the ministers play, and the role the state play. The state is the common denominator. It is always there. To a large extent, the ministers are directors. So they would give broad direction, strategic framework, broad directions as to how things go. And the state will continue on or change directions according to the directives given, right, for the utilization of funds and that kind of thing in the economy.
But can I ask you a question?
Yes.
I don't understand what is the difference between the director and the state. What were the two things you were saying? The ministers are?
The ministers, the parliament, and the state. You want to explain that to them?
Well,
yes, no, the way I know it, the parliament consists of the country. Everybody, 41 people, right? The parliament is the whole state, the whole government, that's parliament.
They make laws.
Right?
To make laws, yes.
The legislature.
Yeah, so they are legislators by and large, right?
Yeah.
But the
Well,
state...
they meaning us. Right, they meaning everybody. Right? Because the parliament is everybody.
Right, this
Remember
everybody coming together to make laws. But the state, for instance, the ministers are not the one who are spending the money. The ministers are not the one who are doing all the day-to-day things that you would complain about.
They said the overarching vision for the ministry, the governance of the country to a large extent. And I will explain it this way, ma'am. You know, sometimes we say ministers corrupt.
That's why we have to look to ourselves. Don't look at no minister.
Okay.
Look towards yourself. Don't put too much power on the ministers. The power is within us. That's what you have to tell the people. And the people have to know that the money they're spending are ours, are not theirs or whatever it is, you know. So it comes like we put in the power in somebody else's hand when the power is in our hand. They're just supposed to guide, right? They're just supposed to, you know, it's our money they're spending.
Yeah,
that's the main important.
Yeah,
right?
but,
that's the main thing.
Yeah, but it happened that way, ma'am, because we allow it, you know. After election, we retreat home and we allow the executive to do what they want, you know. Because what we have is a country of representation without consultation, you know. That is our MPs don't consult with the community when they have to pass any bill. They just do a group thing.
Know why? Because, right, and you know why, mister? Because we are still...
We don't hold them accountable. We don't.
That is it.
My party
that
win.
Is it. I'm saying we are still on the plantation. There's a massa. So we are just sitting down and waiting for massa to pull.
This is why when they walk in a room and they say, all rise, we just rise. When they walk in for us, so suddenly the master rising for the servant. And that is the brainwash we have been under for years.
Yeah.
I paying you, I vote for you, I paying you, you beg for my vote, but when you walk in a room, I standing up.
They are the biggest public servants. I've always said that.
They are.
They are public servants.
Thank you. Thank you so much for saying that. So at the end of the day, you are in power. We are in power. We're supposed to be.
But what they use against us is the fact that the population is divided to a large extent.
Okay.
She.
Mr. President.
Yeah. So
okay, caller.
Thanks again. Good contribution.
Thank you.
Very good contribution.
Yeah.
So
the population is divided, and half of them don't understand governance, as the young lady say. Productivity, for example. Productivity to a large extent stem from we the people, and I've been saying that for years. We the people. Yeah. I'll give an example. I passed through some roads in Trinidad, as the case may be. And these are simple potholes that regional corporation can patch, as the case may be. And I'm sure people in the corporation, cars are damaged by these same potholes that they should be fixing, you know. But then somebody say, well, they're giving no money, and who say no, and who lie. But there are so much easy fixes that really people can agitate to be fixed. And some of us had the responsibility to so fix.
Yeah, but
and we're not fixing.
Yeah, but just going back on what the lady was
saying. And we're saying quiet.
Just going back on what the last caller was saying.
Yeah.
And she was saying, she was kind of like, I wouldn't say, she wasn't so much understanding the power of a minister or the power that a minister does not have or a MP doesn't have, right? And you always say the state is where the
state is where the power lies.
Problems lie.
Yeah, in the state,
right? And but the state is the common denominator. The state is always there.
Yeah.
Right? So, and who is the state? The state.
We the people.
The state is we the people.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, the power is really us.
And we don't know that.
And we don't even know that.
The minister. But the minister, I break it down this way, simplistic way I break it down, because sometimes you have to break it down for the average man to understand. A government will come and say, or a party will come and say, this minister a thief and this minister a thief, and I ask 5 questions, you know. I say, does any minister write a check for anybody? No. Does a minister does an estimate for any contract? No. Does a minister award any contract? No. Does a minister do a bill of quantities? No.
That's why you can't lock them up when you...
How he can thief?
Yeah, he can't thief.
He can't pay no check. So his role is really to give a vision. The cabinet give a vision to a ministry. Yeah? And then within themselves, we look at the purse that the state will indicate to them fellas and them guys, we only have $40. Who you think that's selling the ministers and them that?
The dilemma here in telling the people that is they not understanding, and sometimes I have that kind of dilemma. Between the 5 years, what do you do? Except talking on the radio and that kind of thing for them to hear you. And some would say protest, but you had to ask to protest in this country. Some would say, I don't know, what tell us what to do. To have a say, to have a greater say.
But you have a say because, okay, in the ministries, we the people run the ministry as the case may be, for efficiency and so forth. Yeah? So if a cabinet note come and said, we allocate $100 to pave the road as the case may be. Yes? So the minister, he done his part, he give $100 to pave the road as the case may be and fix the road. It's up to we the people to implement the road fixing job that the $100 is sent to do, you know.
And it goes back to human resource management.
If the permanent secretary manage the human resource and the money that's given or approved by cabinet to do it, costing the minister wouldn't help. Okay, so the Minister of National Security responsible for policy and going to cabinet and requesting money for the police service and who and the army and whoever, right? So they have done that. So they would have allocated for Ministry of National Security $20 and the police service get $18 from that. If there's high crime, where are the Minister of National Security to do? He have allocated the necessary resource to fix the road.
Well, I beg to disagree.
Just I'll give you an example. I had one time to say, no, if it's national security, it's policy.
And so,
he could go to Parliament for policy to aid the police in being efficient. But he don't implement the policy.
So he could be looking at the conditions from time to time, like he'll be looking at the data board and
right.
seeing what's happening.
Yeah.
And he now could think about policies
policy
in the cabinet
right. Yes.
to make changes
and he send it for them.
Along,
but
right?
if they
so if you're not doing that, so we thought we were talking about operations Anaconda and Operation
but then to do with the minister that the police service with Anaconda.
Yeah, as I saying. So, but the minister, who will ultimately be held responsible for certain things, as we all know, he must be seeing all that and saying has something to say about it.
Nothing. You see that because we don't understand it. The minister can himself discipline the commissioner of police because the police service commissioner to deal with he.
We understand that.
So the minister's role is for policy,
and we understand that
the implementation of policy is the state.
What drives discipline in your organization? Not policy,
of course.
Right. So this is what I'm saying.
Stop. So he make policy, but he can implement the policy.
Okay.
So the permanent secretary do it. You still have the police, the public service commission to deal with it. You know, he still can deal with it.
Right.
The service commissions are the one who control teaching service commission league. Judicial Legal Service Commission. So the minister is still removed from.
Ronaldo, you want to jump in?
So, gentlemen, I'm interested in landing the plane. the landing gear is coming down soon, and we have to give this batsman some advice.
Yes.
You know, we gonna give him some advice.
He need help bad
in terms of, you know, we don't know what has become of the Labour Advisory Council. I think that assembled and they all disassembled simply because I think the complaint was that they will not be taken seriously.
And all that kind of
thing. I think they had problems from the whole teething stage, and they didn't feel that the government was given enough teeth. And it's just like the Economic Council. They came together, make recommendations, but the boss say what the boss say. And then the council said, well, don't waste our time. Because remember, you're calling experts, you're calling people from different fields, you're calling an HR person or an IR person, and you're bringing them together. But this gentleman needs to understand the realities in which he's batting now. And it's different from when he was in the pavilion, cheering on and looking on. Good? First, you have to bat for the 90 of ununionized people. Two, you had to get a message from the economics man who just say that the deficit is not 5.5 billion.
It's 9.
It's 9. So, I know you promised champagne. You promised workers champagne, and they're looking out for champagne, and that is legitimate expectation. But we only have more money here. That, according to what you say, Mr. Selvon, needs to be communicated effectively. And you can't be hypocritical about it. Because if they see you buying champagne, you will have problems.
Party done.
Party done. And that breaks up the trust. That breaks up everything. If you say tighten your belt, this is a hard economy, tighten your belt, everybody had to tighten their belt. I don't know why Stephen getting fat and he telling me tighten my belt. Workers will have a problem with that.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we just have a few minutes again, listeners.
Few seconds.
Few seconds again. But tomorrow we will continue with this batsman. He's still in the wicket.
Yeah.
But there will be another batsman who is also facing, who will be the Trade. Minister of Trade, and we will be looking to see how that particular batsman is prepared.
And we will be reviewing the comments of the captain. Because we heard the captain.
Yes, because we heard the captain made some comments today.
Have a blessing.
Have a blessing.
You've got bills to pay, and so do we. Let's go pay some bills on the street 919 FM.
Tune into the street.